This demon that slaughtered the entire city overnight is now tied up like a dog by others, all because I have a very kind brother. Not only did he send me to prison on fabricated charges, he also severed my tendons. He even reduced my rations. In the end, I could only die in humiliation in prison, but my soul did not dissipate. But as a dazzling white light flashed by, I unexpectedly reborn into my youth. I excitedly pinched my cheek, realizing this was not a dream. But before I could feel happy, I got hit squarely in the face. A wave of pain spread from my head throughout my body. I hadn't been hit like this in over a decade. I turned to look, and it was the brother who had always treated me so well. I clenched my teeth tightly, trying to stay calm. I stood up and walked in front of my brother, fixing my gaze on him. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit my head, and I recalled a long-buried memory. When I was young, it was because he commanded me not to learn magic. If I dared to defy his orders, he would send someone to take care of me. As a result, I really didn't study magic for a full 10 years. Because of this, I became a disgrace to my family. Not only did outsiders look down on me, even the servants at home thought I was a joke. I became a street rat that everyone despised. But luckily, fate has given me this chance to be reborn in my youth when I was just starting to learn magic. This time, I will definitely trample on everyone who bullied me before. My brother looks at me with a sharp gaze, clearly displeased. He raises his fist and is about to strike. But I'm no longer the useless person I used to be. I easily counter him using a grappling technique. Then, I throw him over my shoulder. He threw him hard to the ground. He looked at me in disbelief, a useless person like me daring to. So he decided to draw his sword and personally teach me, the traitor, a lesson. The butler sensed the situation was dire. He tried to step in to stop it, but he was knocked away by a punch. What an arrogant guy. I will deal with you and this unreasonable servant together. But I didn't care at all. I even gave him an international gesture. I mocked him. He could no longer tolerate it. He swung his sword at me, but I easily dodged it. This kind of low-level swordplay is something I've already mastered long ago. Then I pressed his head down tightly with my hand. I exhausted him to the point of fainting. Then I grabbed his hair. I dragged him to the edge of the pond. I forcefully threw him toward the water's surface. The movements were seamless. There was no hesitation at all. But this was only the beginning of my revenge. This man actually forced his own brother into the pool and humiliated him. No matter how much his brother begged for mercy, he refused to let him go. It's because the sins he committed are too grave. He not only poisoned and killed my mother, but also forced my sister to marry him. My sister would rather die than comply. So he arranged for her to be married to a man over 40. He personally ruined her life. So now, even if he screams his lungs out, it's useless. I was ready to send him off on his last journey, to personally end his life story. But the butler stopped me. Although I was a bit annoyed, for the sake of better revenge, I decided to hold back. I disdainfully stepped on his body. Then I shouted at the guard beside me, "Hurry up and take this beast away. It's making me sick just looking at it." My actions quickly spread throughout the entire family, and the news just kept getting more outrageous. Have you heard? That little son whom everyone looks down on? He injured his brother to hasten his path to inheriting the family head position. What? That little son is trying to gain. To gain power, one must murder the head of the family. As public opinion continued to ferment, the news quickly reached my father's ears. He found it hard to believe. He hurriedly ordered his men to bring me over. I was not surprised at all to learn of this, because in my past life, my father had the same style. I crossed the noisy streets. I arrived at my father's door, and wanted to reach out to push open the gate, but I was stopped by the soldiers outside. "You reckless fool! Get the hell out of my way!" I kicked the guard right in the knee. With a thud, the guard fell to his knees in pain. "Don't look at me like that. Otherwise, if I'm in a bad mood one day, I'll smash your kidneys." But the guard still firmly kept his post. He wouldn't compromise at all. "It's your father who asked us to guard here. Please have the young master wait here for a moment. Since my father doesn't want to see me, then I ask you to convey this message to him. If there's anything important, come find me in person. Don't call on me for trivial matters." The soldiers heard this. Yama was stunned. Is this person insane? How dare he openly challenge the master's authority? "Sir, the third young master has already returned." The head of the family, upon hearing this, was not angry at all. Instead, he revealed a strange smile. It seems my son has changed a lot. It's time to meet him. As soon as he finished speaking, he appeared in front of me. Old man, may I ask why you're here to see me? He glared at me fiercely. Why are you being so ruthless to your second brother? I didn't take him seriously at all. On the contrary, I leisurely sat down. You want to confirm whether I've been secretly studying magic, right? Well, I can tell you very clearly. No, I'm still just a useless person who knows nothing. When father finds out, he didn't get angry on the spot. Instead, he turned away and left. I understood and respected your thoughts. I thought things would end there. But unexpectedly, later that night, a servant informed my father that I would be confined for a month. Damn it, my sister married into the royal family, and is treated like a dog. He became a toy in everyone's hands. He was further reduced to a tool for the imperial prince to produce offspring. In the end, he could not bear the abuse, and died a humiliating death. I heard that mentioning the Grim Reaper in the discussion forum has special effects. After learning the truth, the sword demon slaughtered the entire city overnight. Better to wrongfully kill, than to let one escape. Unfortunately, even so, her deceased sister can never return. The death of her sister was a huge blow to her. In the end, she chose to commit suicide out of overwhelming sadness. But her soul did not die with her. Instead, it was unexpectedly reborn, in a flash of brilliant white light, returning to her youth. It was the year when my sister was preparing to marry into the royal family. He silently vowed in his heart to stop everything before the tragedy occurred. He would not hesitate to pay with his life if necessary. But now, he himself was in a precarious situation. He had jokingly teased his brother a few days ago. And as a result, his father had confined him for 15 days on unfounded charges. Not only was he forced to endure disgusting meals that were hard to swallow. At night, I still have to sleep on bedding that smells of disposable diapers. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I can use this free time to practice magic, to enhance my abilities as soon as possible. I slowly rise, channeling the spiritual energy in my dantian, constantly stimulating my bloodline. But I find that my talent for cultivation is incredibly impressive now. I've only practiced for an hour. My strength has already increased by a rank. The speed of my training is much faster than I expected. I estimate that in less than 3 years, I will regain my peak strength. That way, I can save my sister's future. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside the door. Damn, I was startled and became flustered. Quickly hide the magic in your hands. Normally, no one in prison should guess it. Could it be that the Duchess came to cause trouble on purpose? Trying to get me killed in prison. But upon listening carefully, I realized the footsteps were particularly light. Preliminarily judging, it's likely a young lady. Just the thought that it might be the person I've been thinking about day and night. He suddenly got up and looked towards the door. It was indeed his sister, Elizabeth. She was as beautiful as ever. Damn it, seeing his beloved standing in front of him, he could no longer bear it. He wanted to rush over and hold her tightly. He made Elizabeth take a few steps back. Then he began to chant an ancient spell into the air. Just as the damned hand touched the iron gate, the chains on the gate shattered with a sound. He slowly pulled his sister into his embrace. In this life, no one will take you away from me. His sister felt a bit flustered by the sudden hug. He urged the former jailer to teach him a good lesson, demanding he leave barefoot. He even ordered him to lick his own foot before leaving. If he were the worthless fool he used to be, he might have submitted, but he is no longer the same person. Powerful magic is concentrated in his palm. The result for the jailer is predictable. As soon as he got out of prison, he ran into the butler. The butler asked him with concern if he was hurt. Before the ghost could speak, the steward noticed the blood on him that belonged to a prison guard. He thought something had happened to his young master, and covered his face in guilt, crying uncontrollably. At that moment, a knight approached respectfully towards the ghost. He immediately inquired about what had just happened in the cell. The ghost looked at him with mockery. It's really not a big deal. I just accidentally severed the tendons of that guard's hands and feet. Maybe the knight was scared by the ghostly presence. He instinctively lowered his head to apologize. The ghost, seeing this, looked quite pleased. He laughed and praised him as a sensible dog. He even playfully gave him a nickname. From now on, I'll call you G. It's so beautiful. After saying that, he left with the butler, leaving the knight standing there, looking foolish. Then, the ghost and the butler arrived at the dining room. The ghost looked at the butler in front of him. He instinctively smiled. though this person was officially a butler. It's not an exaggeration to say he was even closer than his own father. In his previous life, to protect himself, he evaded the enemy's pursuit and chose to sever his meridians. He self-destructed to perish alongside his opponent. So in this life, the sword demon must protect his sister, and he will unhesitatingly protect this steward. Seeing the steward before him, he spoke softly. So you're the mage of the 9 realms, right? You once protected my mother. Later, you secretly vowed to protect her at her request. And my mother should not be an ordinary person. It's just that my father didn't know her true identity. The butler was at a loss for words. He didn't understand how the young master knew this. He had hidden it so well. Even the 7th tier count couldn't uncover his identity. I was at the peak from the moment I was born. Even the heavens must kneel before me. Yet my sister was turned into a human specimen for others to admire. My father was gruesomely blinded and met a tragic end at home. Even my loyal butler wasn't spared from misfortune. He had his tendons severed and was sent to the guillotine. Fortunately, the heavens granted me a chance to start over. Opportunity has given me a rebirth. I have returned to my youth. In this life, I must forge the strongest sword in the world before I turn 20. I will personally eliminate the heavenly path of this world. I will imprison all those who harmed me in my previous life. Just as I was contemplating where to begin my training, my thoughts were interrupted by a series of approaching footsteps. I looked closer to see clearly. So it turns out that the one called Ji-Time is me. I looked at him with an impatient expression. I was ready to take action against him, but Ji-Time slowly lowered his head before I could make a move. He indicated that he just wanted to be a good dog now. He hoped I could let him go. Seeing his terrified expression, I thought of something really amusing. I want this obedient dog to accompany me in practicing swordsmanship. By the way, I'll test my current strength. Soon we arrived at the courtyard of swords. This is a place every dancer seeks and reveres. I tightly gripped the great sword in my hand. I leaped into the air. I slashed toward Ji-Time. She thought she could at least hold on for 2.5 minutes. In less than a minute, he was choked. The butler beside him looked extremely shocked. It was incredible that the young master was so skilled at swordsmanship on his first try. At just 6 years old, he defeated a genius who had trained for 5 years with absolute dominance. On my first day learning swordsmanship, I defeated a world-class genius who had trained for 5 years with absolute dominance. I even stepped hard on his chest with my foot, demanding that he become a dog that only obeys my commands. The knight superficially agreed, but secretly, he told the Marchioness, although I have great skill in swordsmanship, I am weak in this family. There is no support from any power. The knight took advantage of this to risk his life. He colluded with the Marchioness to eliminate me, but with their current strength, they still can't touch me. So I decided on my sister. The Marchioness threatened her sister that she must obey his orders in the future because of my plan to capture the knight and use him as a hunting dog. If you dare to disobey his orders, they will send someone to make me disappear without anyone noticing. Sister, to protect me, actually agreed to this unreasonable request. The Marchioness was very happy when she heard that my sister agreed. I proudly invited him to have dinner together. But just as they picked up their utensils to start eating, the door suddenly burst open from the outside. I stormed in with an air of indifference. My arrival shocked everyone in the room. But what came next was even more shocking. I casually found an empty seat and sat down. I began to stuff chicken legs into my mouth. The Marchioness saw my arrogant demeanor, and her face turned green with anger. Father also bluntly asked me the purpose of my visit. Yet I wickedly licked my fingers, and revealed a chilling smile. I wouldn't come to this cursed place without reason, unless it's the day I plan to kill all of you. The Marchioness asked my sister to join him for dinner. Sister agreed. But sister didn't know that the Marchioness had secretly tampered with dinner, because her true intention was to eliminate me and sister, so that her son could smoothly inherit the position of the next head of the family. Just when the Marchioness's scheme was about to succeed, I fortunately arrived in time. I barged in with a disregard for kinship. My arrival surprised everyone present. But I completely ignored their shocked gazes. Instead, I casually found an empty corner to sit down. Then I licked my fingers one by one, and revealed a chilling smile. Older women should know their limits. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend pouring this bottle of poisoned red wine down her throat. The Duchess realized her plan had been uncovered by me. He pointed at me and cursed. He said I would definitely pay the price. I waved my hand. I signaled for him to shut up. Before leaving, I didn't forget to threaten him. If I come back and find even a hair missing from my sister, I won't hesitate to wipe out the entire Duke's residence. With that, I got into the carriage. I was preparing to go to the academy to study more advanced magic. Before leaving, I specifically advised my sister. I told her not to be intimidated by the Duchess. The Duchess couldn't do anything to me. My sister was somewhat skeptical, but she pretended to understand. Then I drowsily fell asleep in the carriage. When I woke up again, it was already late at night. I groggily got out of the car, but I found a group of people glaring at me from under the car. The leader of the group grinned and let out a dark, strange sound. He bluntly told me that during the camping period, they would break my limbs once a day. Then they would immediately treat me until my tendons lost all ability to recover. After hearing this, I was extremely shocked, because if this continues, my body would effectively be sentenced to death. Even if I were to survive by luck, I would inevitably become a useless person who cannot cultivate. I could only live a miserable life. Mayor Chi saw me standing still, thought I was too scared to respond. He even poked me with his sword a couple of times to test me. My expression darkened instantly. Then I slowly drew my long sword from its sheath. The moment I drew the sword, an aura of a king who looks down on the world surrounded me. Then I leaped forward and slashed towards Mayor Chi. At this moment, Mayor Chi began to regret a little, because he felt the threat of death from me. With common waving, the dark elements between heaven and earth are rapidly converging with me as the center, because what I use is black magic that is considered taboo. Everyone in the night saw this. Hurry up and work together to resist my blow full of death. But their combined blow. Yet in the face of the dark magic in my hands, everything appears incredibly insignificant. As the sword in my hand shatters, the life force of all the knights is completely consumed by me. The entire scene is like a battlefield of carnage, and I show no emotion on my face at this moment. I calmly say, Arlen, come out, I know you're there. Arlen walks out of the woods, his face filled with terror. What just happened was unbelievable to him. He asked me, young master, how did you do it? I had no secrets from Alan. I told him, this is something I accomplished in the Infinite Sword Prison. This task has a total of 8 moves. What I just used was merely the first move. I haven't explained it clearly to Alan yet. Everything that hurts. I coughed up blood, because this body can't handle such a powerful sword yet. Alan nervously asked if I was okay. I gasped and told him I was fine. Quick, give me your potion. Alan hurriedly took it out from his pocket. And you made me drink it. Only then did I recover. Alan asked me why I was still not extinguished. If it weren't for this potion, you would really have died, young master. I looked at Alan, who showed a caring expression. I told him, I know you always carry the potion for me, because in my previous life, I was fleeing from my father's pursuit, and was on the brink of death. It was Alan who saved me, by making me drink this potion. At that time, I was only focused on escaping, and didn't even thank Alan. Speaking of this, my eyes were filled with affection and gratitude. Thank you, Alan. Alan also knows from my confession that I have been reborn. I stood up and took off my clothes. I told Knight Alan, the chick is dead. I stepped on its head. I originally planned to train it well, and then have it work for me. Unfortunately, he didn't make the right choice. I turned to look at Alan, who was silent and composed. I was puzzled as to why Alan showed no surprise upon hearing about my rebirth. I asked him if he wasn't curious. Then I leaned closer to his ear and asked if he wanted to know what happened in the future. Looking at me with a mischievous grin, Alan said he wasn't interested. He felt that no matter where he went, he wouldn't die an untimely death. But when he learned his ending from me, suddenly became a little discouraged. After that, I got on the carriage and prepared to rest for a while, because the battle just now consumed too much energy. Alan is now looking at the purgatory I created. He couldn't believe that the third young master, who had always been kind and easy to bully, defeated 30 people with one blow. To be precise, it only took one sword. Then he was surprised to find everyone's wounds were pierced through the chest, but they weren't sword wounds. How did the young master manage that? He looked at me, who had already fallen into a deep sleep. I couldn't help but think about the young master. What exactly did you go through in your past life? What kind of life did you live? This third young master of the Marquis, called a good-for-nothing by others, actually cut his way from the herb garden to 3 uncles. Even the Emperor's sword, forged from refined iron by my sister, has dulled. I had just rested for 2 hours after exhausting too much stamina. I was abruptly woken up by Alan's loud voice. I was in a bad mood when I got up. I asked Alan what was the matter. It turned out he was worried about my health. Even though I took the potion, Alan still wasn't reassured. I told Alan not to worry. Right now, aside from the pain, there's nothing serious. After hearing this, Alan stopped asking. He took out a bag for me to see. Inside were the knight's belongings. There were a total of 5 bottles of high-quality potions and dozens of gold coins. Seeing this, I couldn't help but admire the Marquis's wealth. There are so many good things. Alan asked me if I wasn't going to drink another potion. I told him it wouldn't help to drink it now. Looking at Alan, who seemed down, I took out the 3 potions inside and handed them back to him. Alan didn't expect to exchange 1 potion for 3. He asked me what I planned to do next. The young master will take care of the people escorting you. The Marquis will definitely suspect you. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard Alan say that. If he suspects me, what can he do? Alan thinks the Marquis will surely summon you back. I then asked Alan if he wanted to continue our bet. Alan immediately turned his head and said he wouldn't bet, because he thinks he'll just lose again. It's so funny that Alan has learned to be clever and not fall for it. After speaking, Alan knelt on one knee in front of me. Young master, I believe you have your own plans. I asked him if anyone else had discovered him coming here. Alan reassured me. Before coming here, he left a clone at the other house to clean. The clone technique is a level 9 advanced magic. In the entire world, there are fewer than 10 people who can see through Alan's clone, and they are all deep in the monster forest on a mission. I warned Alan that the Marquis might resort to torture because of today's events. If the atmosphere is tense, then you can put all the blame on me. If the Marquis wants to kill you, just tell him I said this. Alan asked me what I meant. My eyes were filled with malice. Tell him that if one day he kills you or your sister, that day will be the day of the Marquis family's destruction. Alan stood up in fear after hearing this. I told Alan not to be nervous. These are just hypotheticals. I just hope the Marquis understands his limits and plays the role of a father well in front of your sister. This is the only chance I'll give him in this lifetime. Before Alan left, he asked me if I really had to go to the academy. Looking at Alan's expression, I could tell he wanted to leave this place with me. It would definitely be interesting. But it wasn't the right time yet. I patted Alan on the shoulder. I reminded him to take good care of my sister for me. After Alan left, I packed my things. I ride away on my horse, ready to leave. Although I'm reluctant to part with my sister and Alan, there are things I must do. That is to find my teacher, Milos. He taught me how to survive in my previous life, and gave me the power to seek revenge. He transformed me from a weakling into a person. My teacher's dark magic once made the entire world tremble. Thinking of seeing him again, I felt a long-lost excitement in my heart. This third young master of the Marquis's house, treated as an idiot by others, actually wielded the master's sword to slay a giant dragon. After saying goodbye to Alan, I arrived at a village. Seeing the children here playing and laughing, I felt that this village must be a great place to live. I walked into an inn to rest. It's very noisy inside. Some people are drinking and having fun. They're chatting animatedly. The golden retriever in the shop seems very happy to see me. It's wagging its tail excitedly. I found a corner to sit down. I hope no one will bother me here. After I sat down, a voice called out to me. It said it was the first time seeing a young guest coming alone. I turned to look. I wasn't sure if it was the owner or a staff member asking, was I dining or staying? I looked at the scars on his face and his physique, which clearly belonged to someone who had been in fights. He didn't look like an innkeeper at all. He looked more like a mercenary. Then I took out 2 gold coins and asked him to bring me some simple food and drinks, and to open another room. Unexpectedly, he smiled and told me 1 gold coin would be enough. He served me apple pie and Wellington steak. He even teased me that I was a child and wouldn't give me beer. Instead, he brought me milk to help me grow. I patted the golden retriever in the shop and thought this guy is not bad, seeing that I'm an outsider. They didn't try to overcharge me. Could it be that life here is too comfortable? After all, there's still no war breaking out. Watching the golden retriever cutely act cute with me, wagging its tail with a grin, I smiled and told it, you have no idea what terrible things might happen in the future. And you're still wagging your tail excitedly? Just then, I heard the table next to me discussing how the royal family was gathering strong warriors to hunt magical beasts. A large-scale battle involving martial masters was taking place. Even the most powerful Ironblood knights from the Marquis estate were involved. I don't understand why Teslan is putting in such futile effort. In my past life, I knew about this battle. The magical beast forest is in the Greenland Gorge. It is a neutral region in the world. Living here are half-orcs, goblins, fairies, and elves. There are even giant pythons. The blood of these magical beasts can be used to make potions. Ogre's blubber can be used to make bows and arrows. Certain special magical beasts can forge weapons and armor. Fairy feathers are favorite ornaments among noble women. Elves are admired for their stunning beauty. They are often treated as pets. Their expedition into the treacherous beast forest was driven by human greed. Unfortunately, the outcome of this campaign was a failure. The results were tragic. The Ironblood Knights lost a third of their troops. Other noble factions sent out similar forces and suffered the same losses. Because of this failure, the king lost his star, and they also lost the support of the nobles. It was during this time that the kingdom began to fall apart, and a year later, civil war broke out. While I was listening to these people speak, they unexpectedly mentioned the third young master of the Marquis. I immediately perked up my ears. I listened even more closely. They said that this third young master of the Marquis actually used dark magic, and this fool ended up in prison. A few people laughed heartily. They even said that this idiot, the third young master of the Marquis, has no talent. How could he possibly learn dark magic? He must have learned some lowly tricks from unsavory people. Just then, the woman from earlier brought me food and drinks. She asked me what was so interesting. You made me laugh like this. I really couldn't help but find it interesting after hearing that. I found myself laughing unconsciously. If it weren't for this kind woman sitting in front of me, I might have sacrificed them all. After all, discussing nobles as a commoner is a serious offense. I told her there was nothing to be happy about, just that I heard they said the third young master of the Marquis house is an idiot. I found it interesting. That's why I listened in. And this woman told me that most people judge things they haven't seen firsthand through rumors. But he is different. He waits to see things for himself before making a judgment. I looked at him, who had just finished speaking, and smiled, and I said nothing. He picked up a piece of steak and put it in his mouth. Although it's not as delicious as what Alan makes, it's still quite tasty. However, at that moment, this woman actually smiled at me and said that the young master of the Marquis' house is quite handsome. The rumors calling him an idiot must be false. This young master, who is ridiculed as the big fool by the world, actually held a 235 in his hand, putting all his energy into it. Not long ago, I looked at the woman who recognized me, the scars on her face, the muscles on her body, and these regular mercenaries. I asked her if she was the head of the Adventurers Guild branch here. She was startled at first, then she started to laugh. I'm not just making random guesses. Every village has mercenaries who roam the streets to make a living. Some are hired to participate in territorial wars, while others take simple commissions to find lost pets. Some become hunters of monsters. The Adventurers Guild is where mercenaries find job opportunities. To meet the needs of the mercenaries, the guilds are often located near inns or similar lodging places. I asked him if he was so free, and had the time to personally run a tavern. He seemed quite helpless when he heard that. The Adventurers Guild is right next door. But because this territory is small, there haven't been many job opportunities lately. So he can only make a living like this. Looking at him, chatting and laughing casually, I couldn't help but sigh. Even if I'm the infamous foolish girl of the Marquis, I would only be a topic of conversation among mercenaries at the tavern. But to be recognized by someone from the guild in this remote mountain village? Does he know what happened back then? Just minutes after I arrived here, the village guard stopped me and asked me the purpose of my visit. I took out the Marquis token. Immediately, the guard's attitude towards me became extremely respectful. As soon as I entered, they even remembered to bow at a 90-degree angle. They were afraid I would be angry about their earlier negligence. I felt he must have heard about it from the guards at the city gate. But even if it's important information, it's not right to secretly contact the guards without the Lord's knowledge. But it's a very dangerous behavior. When he heard this, he smiled and asked if I was worried about him. I suppose so. After all, this woman in front of me is quite friendly. Even though she has heard my rumors, her attitude is not as bad as that of the second son in those nights. He smiled and extended his hand to introduce himself. His name is Avinoa. He is the head of the Avinoa village branch of the Alavis Union. I politely shook his friendly hand. I said hello. However, I noticed that both the name of the village and his name are Avinoa. I immediately understood something. So I asked him if he was the boss or the second in command here. He smiled and told me, he is the third son here. The lord here is his older brother. I genuinely admire his skills. Usually, it's commoners who become mercenaries. I didn't expect a noble to engage in this work. Most nobles your age would probably be married by now. He told me he enjoys this job, and his family is also unwilling to sell him off. Hearing this, I fell into deep thought. It's completely the opposite of how we do things at home. It really makes me envious. What an interesting family. He held the golden retriever in his arms, and asked me why I came here alone. Where are your guards? I took a bite of the steak. I casually told him, you idiot. You don't deserve a guard. Hearing me say that, he was momentarily stunned. This third young master of the Marquis's house is indeed different from the rumors. I had Avinoa help me find a few guards. Traveling alone is really exhausting. He asked me how many people I need and how much to pay. I stretched out my hand and told him a maximum of 5 people. It's best if they have camping experience. Cooking skills would be even better. As for the payment, I will pay 2 gold coins in advance for each person. After they arrive, I will pay 3 gold coins more. When Avinoa heard this, his eyes lit up. The third young master is really generous. After all, they protect the merchants. Everyone can take a maximum of 30 silver coins. I took out 3 gold coins and gave them to Avinoa. I asked him to prepare the necessary items, the carriage and horses. Buy them if available. Avinoa took the gold coins. He laughed and said I was really generous. Then he handed me the room key. He told me to rest well. He would handle everything else. This section chief is such an interesting person. He must be very reliable in his work. Besides, those flies should have a hard time getting into this village. I arrived at the room. I lay down on the bed. A wave of fatigue hit me instantly. I fell asleep in this room. I'm just a complete idiot. The golden retriever licking me awake is my self-set alarm clock. Yesterday I had a dream. In the dream, I was still that useless person from my past life. This was my first encounter with the teacher. He laughs at my weakness. He tells me that kindness is not a sin. Incompetence is. Jack, do you want to change yourself? At this moment, Avinoa did not knock. He just came in and told me that he had prepared everything I needed for the journey. When I walked out with my luggage, he told me that he had taken care of everything for me. They even prepared a high-class carriage for me, and selected several experienced escorts. I looked at the few people in front of me, who told me to guide them. Aren't they the ones who slandered me yesterday? At this moment, a middle-aged man came up to me. He extended his hand and said, he is John, the leader of the Firewild mercenary group escorting me to Rock Mountain. Hearing that name, I found it hard to believe. Because the meaning of this name refers to an unidentified corpse. He actually uses this name. Although I know it's a fake name, I still politely shook his hand, and told him his name is really interesting. He told me that the journey from here to Rock Mountain isn't short. Besides a few small villages to rest along the way, there are no places to stay, so we have to camp twice. Among them, 2 people used to be chefs, and they also have rich camping experience. I heard him talk for so long that I was about to fall asleep. I asked him if with so much thought, I wouldn't have to do anything. He just grinned, like you're talking to me. Then let's set off immediately. I'm already tired from lifting the boxes. Before I leave, I look back at Aviner. I thank him for introducing me to such an interesting group of mercenaries. Aviner tells me not to mention it. These people are really seasoned, but I know this captain is no ordinary mercenary. Although my physical condition is not as good as in my past life, my eyesight and intuition are still intact. Alan is a level 9 magician because he concealed his identity and strength, so he shouldn't be taken as an example. However, the mercenary captain in front of me is indeed level 8. Could he also be hiding his strength? I smiled and bid farewell to Avinoa, promising that we would meet again soon. He hopes we can have a beer together then. I playfully told him that if he was treating, then I would consider it. Soon, I set out with the mercenaries toward Shurian Mountain. The weather is nice today. After a night's rest, I'm feeling much better than before. I suddenly noticed the mercenary captain was staring at me. I don't know what he means by that. I stood up and abruptly asked another mercenary next to me. You should have heard of who I am, right? He said he hadn't. He only knew that I was a distinguished noble young master. I smiled and asked him if that was true. He told me it was. The branch manager said you should be traveling the world. I expressed my curiosity about something after hearing it. I fumbled in my pocket. Then I threw him a document. He held it carefully and took a closer look. "Isn't this a noble's document?" I smiled and asked if he recognized it. "This is the document of my extinct family, the Barontier Marquis family, and I am the useless young master you mentioned yesterday. The third young master of the Marquis's house, known as the rice bucket, actually went camping in the wild and ate 10 bowls of rice. Right before eating, he pointed at the cook and asked why he called him an idiot. He was also thrown in prison for using dark magic." Looking at the few people before me, trembling a bit, I found it quite amusing. After all, it's all been made so clear. Now you know my identity. And the rumors about me using dark magic are spreading wildly outside. This person trembled as he said sorry to me. I told him he wasn't wrong. After all, my teacher is a highly skilled dark magician, so as his student, even if I am a swordsman, it's impossible for me not to understand dark magic. I asked him why I wasn't using my fists. "You had to use dark magic." I pointed at the person next to him and asked why you didn't stop him when he cursed me yesterday. "But when he cursed the king, you covered your mouth so tightly. That really makes me sad." The person quickly apologized. He said he was blind to the situation. Everyone present, except John, looked completely flustered. I thought maybe the department head only told him my identity. I patted the man's shoulder. I told him it was okay. Let's forget about what happened yesterday. After all, we have been through thick and thin together for several days. I gripped his shoulder tightly. He looked incredulous. How could a child have such bold strength? Busy said that third young master is right. I hope to be taken care of in the future. When it came time for dinner in the evening, one of them told me that he now understands. The rumors are indeed unreliable. I asked him what he meant by that, confused. He told me I am different from ordinary nobles. They are usually pampered, never does any work, and you actually washed the dishes yourself. It's really hard to believe. Others also agreed with this person's words. I didn't expect that this small gesture would make them see me in a new light. I just thought the delicious dishes they made, beef pies and pudding sausages, looked really appetizing. I even want to hire him as my private chef. I only felt satisfied after eating until my belly was full and let out a long sigh. Although thinking this way feels a bit unfair to Alan, I told everyone that I was doing the dishes to thank them for such a delicious dinner. After all, I consider myself a foodie. After explaining, I asked him who was on guard tonight. He told me they would draw lots to decide. He asked if I wanted to join in. I pouted a bit. He said he was just a little kid. He needed to sleep early to grow taller. It was too boring at night. He started chatting with the mercenaries. He asked if they knew how many divine dragons were in this world. Everyone was quite puzzled. It is said that divine dragons were all exterminated by the legendary founding king hundreds of years ago. This great founding king, along with his 2 assistants, had eliminated all the divine dragons that once ruled the western continent, and established the Teslan Empire. Over time, it evolved into the current Teslan Kingdom. It even became a vassal state of the Tulkarn Empire. All of this is common knowledge. I started counting on my fingers. First, there are 2 dragon lords in the Black Sea. The royal family of the Tulkarn Empire has 1 small dragon. The Beastwood Forest has 5. As far as I know, there are still 8 wandering around in human form. So there are at least 16 divine dragons on this continent. Everyone was very surprised to hear my words. I knew they probably wouldn't believe what I said, because divine dragons only appear in legends. So far, no one has ever seen them with their own eyes. I asked everyone if this story was interesting. The reason divine dragons cannot interfere in human affairs, it's because there's a covenant restricting their actions. John asked me what I meant. Didn't the founding king actually kill the divine dragon? I smiled. I told him that the despicable guy didn't eliminate the divine dragon. Instead, he negotiated. Strictly speaking, it was those 2 unknown assistants who did it. I told everyone. In fact, what we understand about the continent is not the whole world. Simply put, we are on the western continent, while on the other side of the Black Sea is the eastern continent. Not to mention the little dragon. The Dragon Lord bears a mission passed down through generations. That is to guard the barrier of the Black Sea. Although I don't know the origin of the barrier either. But I heard it was created thousands of years ago to separate the 2 continents. The Dragon Lords have taken it upon themselves to guard the barrier for generations. I'm also quite curious. What kind of events are happening on the eastern continent, blocked by the Dragon Lords? After hearing my words, everyone suddenly burst into laughter. A mercenary stopped me and said, "Boss, you really know how to tell a story. It seems you really need someone to chat with. I sighed, thinking, forget it. Although I didn't expect them to believe me, I still felt a little lost inside. This Marquis's third son, who was considered worthless, actually comprehended the essence of the sword in 3 minutes, and even confronted 8 severances head-on. The strong fighter. Just now, because I was talking about the existence of dragons, everyone didn't believe me, so I went to the river to take a bath, and thought about what had happened these past few days. I originally thought that the mercenary leader, John Dao, was a spy sent by Turkin to the kingdom, and that department head was also very suspicious. These few people still cannot be trusted for the time being. After all I want is a mercenary who can serve as a guard. But this woman introduced me to a hidden powerhouse, who possesses an 8th-tier fighting ability. Even the current leader of the Ironblood Knights is only at the 8th tier now. In other words, a talent who would be highly sought after anywhere. Yet now, they are the leader of an obscure mercenary group. Is there some hidden reason? I gaze at the full moon in the sky, lost in thought. However, right now, rather than uncovering his true identity, I have something more important to do. I have already healed the injuries caused by using Flame Ridge, while resting in the inn and on the carriage. I gathered energy in my hands. I feel like this is fine, but even so, I still need to find the teacher. Although John Doe is very likely not Tulkin's spy, I still can't bring him along. After getting dressed, I decided to go ask him directly. Everyone looked at me when I appeared. He asked me why I had been soaking for so long, but I didn't answer him. At that moment, I held the sword in my hand. I wanted to tell everyone that I had been worrying about one thing. That's why I wasn't in the mood to soak for too long. John Dao asked me what it was. I looked at him with a sharp gaze, and I asked him if he really didn't know. I pointed my sword at him, pointing at a powerful 8-stage fighter. What worries me is that, as the owner of 8-stage fighting energy, why would you want to be a mercenary? Where I'm going is very important to me, and holds great significance. So I don't intend to take someone like you, who has been hiding things from me, along. This left the mercenary group members stunned. Their captain turned out to be an 8th Dan. What's going on? John Dao told him to shut up. Don't interrupt the young master. Then he stood up and said, alright then, let's just say I'm the 8th Dan Tail. What does the young master want now? I told him. I just shared an interesting story with you all. Now it's your turn to tell me one. John asked me what would happen if I refused. And I smiled as I told him, if you can't convince me, then you're done for. Then my expression instantly turned cold. Ask him if he's a spy sent by Turkin. I radiate the presence of the mercenary group's other members. I tremble all over. I told John that the woman named Jin said the next time we meet, we should have a beer together. If you're a spy, then he's also suspicious. This made John furrow his brow in an instant. He asked me why I suddenly mentioned Jin. I think he's really stupid. Even after all that, he still doesn't get it. Isn't he curious about whether the thing the woman ended up consuming was beer? After saying that, I showed my innocent smile. I asked him how he felt. Things just got interesting, right? Looking at John, who was hesitating and panicking in front of me, I said it like this. He still hasn't activated his fighting spirit. I can't tell if he's on guard or hesitating, but at least he knows his place. I can't control my strength right now, so I might end up hitting too hard, because the moment he uses his fighting spirit, I'll draw my sword. I smile and ask him whether he wants to live or die. Such a simple question. I'll give you a minute. I hope you can make a wise choice. At that moment, John recalled what Jane had said at the inn. Jane told him that the third young master, almost abandoned by the Marquis family, was not as rumored. Moreover, from the third young master's eyes, it seemed he was hiding a lot. He happened to ask me to help find a guard. So I wanted to probe into this mysterious third young master. Perhaps that kid could change our lives. At this moment, John realized that this third young master was indeed different. No matter who saw those eyes, they wouldn't believe he was a fool abandoned by his family. Looking at the pure and innocent face of the third young master before him, he felt an uneasy premonition. It was as if he were a herbivore standing in front of a lion. Every instinct told him that this third young master was very dangerous. This Marquis's third young master, whom people regarded as a fool. He suddenly got the urge to tell ghost stories to the mercenary group. Everyone was clearly used to the young master sharing these terrifying tales. If it weren't for his noble status, he would have probably been slapped by now. However, the mercenaries didn't understand why their leader, a master of the 8th rank, with the potential to be a formidable figure, chose to live a humble life as a mercenary. But thinking about how the captain saved his life, and how they have lived together for so many years, he understands that the captain may have his own difficulties. He even envisions that their mercenary group could become one of the top teams. And their captain will become the king of mercenaries in the world. Only John knows in his heart that the king of mercenaries is not something a mere 8-dan could achieve. Even the masters at the grandmaster level have at least 4 members. They immediately stopped discussing the topic. They prepared to continue listening to the story I was telling. At that moment, I patiently began to recount an event from 23 years ago. There was a simple-minded guy with well-developed limbs who had an indescribable relationship with the fairy lord. Everyone expressed that they had never heard of this before. It immediately piqued their interest. They were ready to hear more. I suppose that's true. After all, these two races are in opposition to each other. Moreover, they often engage in wars. These two races are known as the twin evils of the beast forest. They can also be referred to as the guardians of the forest. And now, two such opposing races. Their leaders have actually fallen in love. Originally, the two races coexisted harmoniously in the forest. Even during the early days when the forest ruler, the Black Knight, became the half-orc lord, they still coexisted peacefully. John Dow and his team were eager to ask me what had happened next. I couldn't help but smirk. I told them not to rush. The reason was that everyone knew about the relationship between the Black Knight and the Fairy Lord. Whether they were human, fairy, or orc. Although they are different races, their fundamental desires are the same. They all share the same obsession with power. Due to dissatisfaction with their lords from both races, they used their relationship as an excuse to secretly ally. Thus, they plotted to overthrow their respective lords. But in the end, their ambitions were not realized. To this day, the lords of the two races have not changed. However, they have given up on love. They chose to strengthen their respective races. John found today's story somewhat interesting, but he didn't know whether the story was true or not. However, there are some things he knows. A few years ago, the relationship between the half-orcs and the fairies was not as tense as it is now. And since 10 years ago, these two lords have held the title of twin demons. The fairies stole combat techniques that only half-orcs would know, while the half-orcs learned the fairies' elven magic. The two most numerous races in the forest stole each other's secrets. As a result, the two races began to oppose each other, and simultaneously became the representative races of the forest. At this moment, I stepped firmly on John Doe's shoe, and advised him that if he were ever caught by half-orcs or fairies, he could tell them this story. It might just buy you some extra time to live. John wasn't sure if it was true, but said that if that day ever came, he would definitely do so. After saying that, John felt hungry, and personally handed me a plate of snacks to eat. Look at me enjoying my meal. He proudly told me that he made this himself today. However, what I didn't know at that moment was that the news of all the soldiers escorting me dying in the mountains had already reached my father's ears. And based on the search results, it was confirmed that the soldiers died from high-level magic. This troubled my father greatly, because at that time, the Iron Blood Knights had been dispatched to the monster forest. This kind of thing is happening now. He pondered whether the mastermind behind this was the king or the duke, so he immediately ordered a thorough investigation into the matter. He also asked his subordinates. His youngest son had been missing. Could he still be alive? His subordinates told him that they had not found the third young master's body. Maybe he escaped. He thought that if Jack was still alive, then he would be the only eyewitness. He had to find him immediately. After his men left, his father was thinking about his useless youngest son. He never expected he might actually be useful. This third young master of the Marquis's house, who was treated like garbage, surprisingly learned the likeness skill in just 1 minute to replace Yunzong. This is all because he has an important matter today. That is to go into the deep mountains to find money. It's his own teacher. Just half an hour ago, the mercenaries escorted me to the Rocky Mountain. I also gave them a thick bag of gold coins as a reward. When John received it, he only felt its weight. It must weigh at least 5 pounds. Sure enough, when I opened it, a bag full of shiny gold coins was there, and he quickly said to me, "Young master, you've given too much." I replied, "It doesn't matter. It's just money for a crepe. I gave you extra. Consider it a tip for you. And I had my doubts about you before. Consider this a compensation for you. Thanks to your company along the way. Otherwise, I would have been bored to death." I smiled and told these lovely mercenaries goodbye. But to my surprise, they stood there motionless. A bunch of grown men actually. seemed reluctant to part. Then John turned to me and said, "Young master, some things shouldn't really be said to you, but I still want to tell you." I asked him what those things were, confused. John no longer hesitated. He told me that being a mercenary isn't as bad as it seems. Although I don't know everything about you, young master, I still feel like I know a bit. You are treated as trash in the Marquis's house. Master has no one to support you, and I've seen many young nobles like you who are out of favor. Their fates usually don't end well. I glanced at the mercenaries behind him after hearing this. I asked John if he wanted me to become a mercenary. At that moment, John put a hand on my shoulder. He told me not to joke. "Master," I just said, "being a mercenary isn't that bad. As long as you don't take on dangerous missions, you can travel the world and live a comfortable life. No other profession can offer that." And right now, I ask John about those people behind you who may not know. But you should be very clear. If I wanted to kill you that night, you would definitely be dead. I know John understands this. Even if I didn't use my soul technique at that time, he, with his 8th rank, could clearly sense the danger. And John said it was precisely because he knew this that he felt it was a shame, because the young master is truly talented. And he told me that he has already forgotten about that night. After all, as someone who makes a living on the edge, I sometimes hide my strength from those around me. If the young master wants to hold me accountable, I am willing to accept any punishment from him. And I smiled, indicating that it didn't matter to me. Then I leaned closer to his ear and told him a little secret. There will be significant events happening in the Western continent in the coming years. I told John Dow to definitely hide away. He was confused. I couldn't be bothered to explain, because the time has come. John Dow will naturally understand, and he will surely be amazed. This is truly a terrifying thing. I told John never to be deceived into selling his life for a few gold coins. After all, life is more important than money. After saying that, I patted John on the back. I reminded him to remember my words well. After saying goodbye to them, I entered the dense forest alone. Looking back at my figure, John asked me to wait a moment. I turned to look back. John placed his hand on his chest. With a determined gaze, he said to me, "Sir, may I ask your name?" I smiled. He clearly knew what my name was. But I understood his meaning. "My name is Jack. What's your name?" This time, he no longer hides it. Instead, he directly reveals his true name, Dita Timo. I made a note to remember him. Perhaps we'll meet again someday. To hurry and see the teacher, I channeled my energy into my feet. I strolled above the forest and landed steadily only when I was close to my destination. Now my control over my internal energy has reached perfection. Even my hairstyle hasn't been messed up. I crossed a few small hills and arrived at a cave entrance. I lamented that maybe it's because my body is still small that I dare to be so bold. Just let me get breathless. After entering the cave, I used magic to illuminate the darkness. I'm sure it's right here. If I just pass through this wall, I can reach the place where the teacher is. In my past life, I discovered this place by chance, too. I was weak and helpless back then, driven to desperation by the Marquis 8. This was my situation at the time. Everything is completely different now. I bit open a vial of potion. I splashed it on the wall. Then I slowly drew the sword from my waist. I placed the sword in my palm, and I tightly gripped the blade with my hand. Blood flowed down in torrents. This third young master of the Marquis's mansion, who is treated as a support for defense, actually accepted a lowly who was only 1.2 meters tall as his teacher. In my past life, when I was at a dead end, I hid in this cave. I intended to end this life, but my weakness held me back. Blood and tears fell to the ground. It became an opportunity because of this. After they merged, the stone gate surprisingly collapsed. It was here that I met the woman who changed my life. In this lifetime, I once again found this sword with memories from my past life. It shattered the stone gate. As I delved deeper, I couldn't understand why. I actually feel a little nervous. But that's not surprising. Even in my previous life, I hadn't seen my teacher for 10 years. I don't know how much road has been traveled. I finally found my teacher from the last life. Just like in the last life, he is still bound by chains. And their appearance is also different from ordinary people. At that moment, I slowly called out, "Teacher." My sudden appearance did not cause him any panic. He stared at me in silence for 30 seconds. I also recalled his teachings from my past life. In this world, whether human, dragon, or half-beast, everything is meaningful. But my teacher has actually lived for 400 years. His body and soul have already separated. He uses magic to keep them together. But my teacher's temporary solution ultimately failed. Since meeting me, he has lived for another 10 years. In this life, I have encountered my teacher again. I also clearly know he has only 13 years left to live. Then I heard the teacher's voice again. He coldly asked me why I called him teacher. I could no longer contain my longing. My voice became choked. He didn't know who I really was. What my purpose was in coming here. I planned to tease him about this. I said, guess. He thought I was making fun of him after hearing that. Then he looked at me coldly and said he wouldn't ask a second time. Who exactly are you? I crouched in front of him and smiled broadly. I didn't notice his gradually angry expression at all. Teacher, your temper has improved now. I miss you very much. He pondered in confusion. He couldn't remember when he had such a disciple. Don't ask me if I know who he is. I told him that's only natural. How could I possibly not know? The time spent with my teacher in my past life, growing up from knowing nothing to adulthood, was not just a dream. But now, only I remember these. At this moment, I looked up and firmly told the teacher, you are the great hero Valentine Morose, who ends the glorious era and begins the era of humanity, and I am your disciple from the future. But it was obvious that upon hearing my words, the teacher doesn't believe him. He asked me if I knew why he doesn't like storytellers. Having spent so long with the teacher in a past life, how could I not know? I smiled and told him the answer. That is to say, storytellers always distort the facts. After hearing my answer, he asked me another question. In this situation, what would he say? I scratched my head, indicating that I understood. He must be telling me to get lost. The teacher thinks I have the ability to see into people's hearts, but clearly still doesn't trust me. Seeing his expression really made me sad as well. Then I can only prove it this way. I drew my sword. I quickly aimed it at the teacher, with the fighting spirit swirling around me. Teacher, please forgive my rudeness. This marquis, often seen as a weakling, actually learned the sword soul technique in just 10 seconds, all to prove to the teacher that I am his disciple from a past life. I decided to use my soul skill to destroy the chains binding the teacher. Watch me make my move. The teacher told me to wait a moment, because if the chains are destroyed, this place will collapse, and I obviously understand that. That's exactly why I must destroy this place. As soon as I finished speaking, I rushed towards the teacher with my sword. The one who trapped the teacher here is the one everyone calls the hero, Teslan. He once promised the teacher that he would return one day, but this despicable man never came back. And so, 50 years passed. After waiting in vain for decades, the teacher finally realized he had been abandoned. But now I return again with the memories of my past life. I will absolutely not let the teacher be bound by shackles again. I swing my sword toward the chains. The teacher is also shocked by my strength. Can this inexplicable boy really do it? With a swift sound, I rush past him, accompanied by the sound of the chains shattering. The teacher couldn't believe that the chain made of dragon bone was actually cut. Just as the teacher was about to fall, my hand, filled with soul power, was ready to catch him. At the same time, I shouted, "Teacher, be careful." Then I held the teacher in my arms, telling him I was different from that guy, Teslan. I wouldn't be untrustworthy. Instead, I would prove myself through action. But the teacher had no time to be moved. He told me that the cave ceiling was about to collapse. I urged the teacher to hold on tight. Now I need to get him out. Watching the tears fall from his eyes, my expression showed no panic at all. Instead, it was filled with determination. Then I slowly raised my sword. As I recite the sword formula, a majestic and chilling sword energy fills the entire blade. This is the strongest defensive move of my sword technique. The aura created by the sword energy keeps the rocks away from us. At the same time, this is also what my teacher taught me about sword mastery. I then drove the sword firmly into the ground, releasing the sword move once more. In an instant, the entire cave was flattened by my power. The teacher couldn't help but ask me who I really was. At such a young age, how could I have the aura of a sword soul? I tightly embraced the teacher. I told him I was his disciple from the future. I learned all of this long ago. Then I smiled at him. For the next 13 years, let's travel the world together. After I finished speaking, the teacher held my face with both hands. This is the teacher's habitual action. It is meant to confirm whether someone is lying. At that moment, I was also exhausted. I collapsed on the ground, but the teacher still had doubts. Sitting on me, he said that forcing a relationship with others is very rude. I was too weak to explain further. I introduced myself to him again. My name is Jack. I am your disciple from a past life. Please take care of me in this life. The silly girl that even dogs want to bite. How could she sneak off to the market with her lowly master? I don't know why. My master hasn't said a word to me in 5 days. He only told me after I asked him. At first, he thought I was a descendant of the Teslan family, but he realized he was mistaken. Because it's impossible for someone so young to control soul power. After hearing what the teacher said, I understood he wanted me to tell him the answer myself. And if I couldn't answer, he would definitely beat me up like in my past life. I told the teacher, even if he is a genius of Dochi master, only a very few people can use soul power. The teacher said he was right, although this is the case. But he discovered that my soul had accumulated a lot of murderous intent. He could feel that my hands, which looked harmless, were stained with more blood than his. The teacher asked me if I had ever thought about why such things happened to me. Only then did I understand. It turns out the master has been thinking about this these past few days. Then scenes from my previous life flashed through my mind. I wiped out an army of 1,000,000 on my own. But I still don't understand why I was reborn. I told my teacher, this isn't the rebirth I wanted. Perhaps someone gave me this opportunity. Maybe that person has other intentions. But why think so much now? It's better to live in the moment. If there really is a purpose, the one behind it will come to find me someday. After all, right now, being with the teacher is the most important thing. The teacher looked speechless after hearing this. He praised me for being so articulate, and asked me what I planned to do next. I teased the big yellow dog. I said I needed to find someone who could work for me. After all, this was something I had to do. Because of the battles with those family nights, and that night 5 days ago when the teacher was taken, the backlash from using soul power left me in agony. I even secretly drank 2 bottles of high-grade potions without telling the teacher. Even so, I felt unwell for almost 5 days. Right now, I'm physically very weak, so I need a trusted right-hand person to protect me. Just as I was planning to take the teacher to buy a new sword, I bumped into a girl at the street corner. She covered her head and said sorry. A girl in a hurry. I was just about to help her up when I just said I wanted to find someone who could risk their life for me, and then I discovered an extraordinary presence. So I immediately took out my pouch of money, and asked if he was willing to be my companion. Seeing his bewildered expression, I tempted him. If he agreed, all the money in this pouch would be his. He took the bag. It felt like at least 5 pounds, so he quickly insisted he couldn't accept so much money. I smiled and asked him what he thought would be appropriate. He pondered for a long time. Then he told me 1 silver coin would be enough. After I handed him the silver coin, he quickly gave me his flowers. Then he bowed to me and hurried away. Looking at his back, I realized this person was the gem I was looking for. The master also saw his potential, and mentioned that he hadn't seen a vampire in a long time. The master asked me if I chose him as a companion because I knew his identity. I told the master that I didn't know he was a vampire. It's just that I noticed his potential. If he is properly trained, he might reach the 10th level in the future. My master remarked that I surprisingly didn't see his identity. His tone suggested that there is still much he will teach me. I told my teacher to live a long life, to guide me well by my side. And so, amidst our laughter and joy, the teacher gradually remembered the girl from earlier. It seemed like he had seen her somewhere before. The teacher appeared to recall something. He decided to take me to meet someone. That foolish young master, whom everyone steps on, was actually squatting at someone's window begging for food. Not long ago, the teacher told me, the vampire clan is the only race that can contend with the dragon. 10 years ago, the 2 clans waged war. The vampires just wanted to leave the beast forest. But in the end, the dragon clan emerged victorious, and the remnants of the vampires escaped the beast forest in the chaos. The child I just bumped into might be the daughter of a vampire who escaped from the forest, but I don't care what her identity is. I told my master that I had made up my mind, so I let him become my first subordinate, but my master thought I was cruel. I was actually involving an innocent child in my plans, although that wasn't how I intended it. Still, my master's words had some merit. After all, 400 years ago, my master had made a verbal non-aggression pact with all the kings of different races led by the dragon clan. That means all non-human races are forbidden from interfering in human affairs. Since then, All non-human races have relocated to the Beast Forest. But as time passed, most of the kings who were part of the agreement have died. After all, no matter how powerful a race is, it cannot conquer. Yet their descendants, even though they are no longer bound by the promise, still cannot leave the forest. Because the dragon ancestor, who has lived for over 2,000 years, must uphold the agreement. So he has been suppressing the other headquarters. He prevents other races from stepping out of the Warcraft forest. The teacher's judgment is correct. However, he should have wiped out the dragon clan from the very beginning. After I learned about this in my past life, I exterminated the entire dragon clan. At this moment, I smiled at my teacher, and held his hand, so he wouldn't blame himself. No matter what, I am still his disciple, and I will help him handle everything. The teacher said to do as I suggested. A colleague reminded me never to give him my acupoints. I don't understand what the teacher means by that. After all, he is still a child. Children should eat more nutritious food. At this moment, the vampire girl walking through the crowd was still thinking about how strange it was for the person she met today to talk to her like that. And he even wanted her to be his companion. It had been a long time since anyone had spoken to her so gently. Her mother should feel revitalized after drinking this half-orc's blood. She also recalled her mother's warning. She must never drink human blood. To be precise, except for the blood given by her uncle. No blood can be drunk. When he returned home, his mother, lying in bed, told him there were guests. This surprised him. Who would dare visit a vampire's home? At that moment, I appeared at his window, smiling and asking him why he took so long to return. He was shocked to see me. Why am I in his house? At that moment, the teacher slowly said, "Sit up. Let me take a good look at your face." The person lying in bed slowly sat up. It was a very beautiful woman. After examining her face, the teacher said, "Long time no see. But how did you end up like this?" The holy true ancestor of the vampire clan, Vivian Royalin, this little lord of the Marquisate, regarded as an idiot by others, actually wants to steal the vampire's ice cream. Just now, I followed the little vampire to his home. My master was chatting with the vampire ancestor, Vivian. Vivian seemed to not recognize him anymore, thinking my master was a vampire hunter. But when the master said his name was Veridin Milos, it was he who drove the vampire clan into the monster forest. Vivian was so shocked that he started coughing violently. He couldn't understand why such a legendary figure had turned into a puppet. The master told him he was cursed. For one night a month, he could become a normal human. However, he asked Vivian to answer his question first. Why is the true ancestor of the vampires no longer in the monster forest, but instead ran to live in the human homeland? And it seems he hasn't fed for a long time. Vivian stated. A person of such stature and strength like the master holds great power. However, he no longer resents the master for driving his clan into the forest. If it weren't for the master, the vampire clan might have been exterminated by humans long ago. He then told the master the whole story. There are 5 tyrants in the Warcraft forest, and 2 lords controlling them from behind. The vampire planned to escape their control and leave the forest. When his beautiful daughter was young, the dragon discovered his attempt to escape. Unexpectedly, the dragon took pity on him. He surprisingly showed mercy and spared his life. And they could only survive in the village by drinking the blood of cows and pigs. Only in this way would he spare himself and his daughter. He became what he is now to protect his daughter. The master felt it was truly tragic to hear this. Clearly, the true ancestor has the potential of a remarkable king. Yet he has to wait to die in this broken-down village. Just as the master was chatting with him, his daughter Charlotte told her uncle to come back quickly, and that her uncle didn't like having guests at home. I was very curious about his uncle, so I asked him if he could tell me more about his uncle. Unexpectedly, he looked at me with suspicion, and asked if I was trying to get close to him because I knew his uncle was wealthy, and was trying to scam him. This leaves me speechless. I just find it boring. Then Charlotte told me that the house she lives in with her mom was given by her uncle, and he sends them food every 3 days. I understood that the food she meant was blood from cows and pigs. I was about to tell her that the guy she called uncle actually didn't finish his sentence. A voice came through. Is it talking about me? A man dressed like a baron appeared before us, leaning on a scepter. He asked Charlotte when she made such a friend, and has she never met a foreigner before? I knew the person in front of me must be the uncle Charlotte mentioned. He scrutinized me for a long time, looking at my attire. He knows I am a nobleman's son. At the same time, he also heard that there were other people in the room. At this moment, Vivian asked my master to call her daughter in. When I brought him and Charlotte in, I saw Vivian lying on the bed with my teacher. Unexpectedly, Vivian's expression changed to fear when she saw her daughter's uncle, and the man patted Charlotte's head, telling him not to be too nervous. What the hell is going on? Then I expressed that I wouldn't do anything. Feel free to say what you want. I won't interfere with the mother and daughter's final farewell. This young master from the Marquis family, who's said to be a bit dim-witted, actually boasted in front of the vampire. Just now, the true ancestor vampire, Lillian, about to die. His daughter Charlotte kneels by the bed, not knowing what was wrong with her mother, but she sensibly made her mother drink the half-orc blood he had worked hard for, and her mother told her it was unnecessary. Then she said she had nothing to feel sorry for him about. Watching the scene before her, I think there's no need for the teacher and me to stay here any longer, because we just happened to come to this prison. We're not obligated to see Charlotte's mother off, but I still stepped forward and asked Vivian, "Are you willing to entrust your daughter to me?" Charlotte and her mother were both surprised by my words. I sat by the bed and held Lillian's hand, asking her how she hoped Charlotte would grow up. Does he want him to revive the vampire clan? Or does he want him to inherit the true ancestor's position to lead the entire world? Or does he want to completely destroy the dragon clan that has played with and pushed the vampire clan toward extinction? Beside me, Charlotte's uncle heard my words, and thought it was really childlike innocence. Then he started laughing. However, Vivian's trembling hands made me pause. He stated that Lord Valentine's disciple is indeed different from others, but he doesn't ask for much. He only hopes that his daughter, Charlotte, can grow up happily. That's enough for him. However, he asked me if I would truly take responsibility for Charlotte, and I assured him I would. Rest assured, noble ancestor of the vampires. Then, the vampire ancestor gently stroked his daughter, and completely left this world. Even if Charlotte cried her heart out, it couldn't stop her mother from fading away. However, at that moment, suddenly, an inappropriate laughter rang out. I couldn't help but clench my fists. It was Charlotte's uncle, laughing and playing on the side. Then he couldn't help but burst into loud laughter. Charlotte doesn't understand why her mom is dead. How can her uncle laugh like that? Because Charlotte's uncle thinks I'm bragging. It makes him laugh until his stomach hurts. He seeks revenge and finds happiness. He even shamelessly claims responsibility for this dying child. He hasn't finished speaking. I gather my fighting spirit. He swung his fist and smashed it towards him. With a loud crash, that arrogant man was sent flying out of the room. Yet, he was still shouting even as he flew out. Once he steadied himself, he reprimanded me for being an uncouth young master. How dare I sneak attack him? He grinned widely. Then the flame-colored energy condensed all over his body. He was going to teach Charlotte's new bad friend a lesson. Just as he was about to strike back, his master's voice rang out, "What is your name?" This immediately stopped his attack. He felt no magical fluctuations at all. Yet a puppet was actually speaking. The master ignored him. The cold voice said, "Except for the two lords, the other 5 divine dragons can only stay in the forest. In other words, you are not one of them. You look like you're only 200 years old. Could it be that you were newly born during this time?" Charlotte's uncle was first startled upon hearing this, then angrily asked how the master knew. "You vile woman, who are you really?" The young master of the Marquis' house, always considered a coward by his family, actually defeated a dragon with just 3 moves. Just now, my master revealed his true identity. He is from the dragon clan. He was very surprised upon hearing this. He didn't know how my master found out, so he angrily asked my master, "The foul woman, who exactly are you?" I never expected this person would dare to insult my master in front of me. Just as I was about to teach him a lesson, my master stopped me and told me to put him down. Then, he introduced himself to the man. "My name is Veridinterilos. I am a wizard." Upon hearing that name, the dragon instinctively stepped back 2 paces. He had heard of the teacher's reputation. He was the immortal wizard, once standing at the pinnacle of the world, an existence no one could shake. Looking at the man before him, full of misfortune, the master spoke the names of the 2 dragon lords to him. Only the dragon tribe and those truly on equal footing with them could know the names of the dragon lords. It was then that the man believed the master was not lying. However, he still did not take the master seriously. He claims to be the supreme fire dragon. His name is Barotu. I didn't expect to encounter such a big shot here, but first, he needs to deal with his toy's daughter. The master hears this and tells him not to act recklessly. He should return to where he belongs. But the little dragon completely disregards this. He asks the master if he has forgotten the agreement. Their exalted dragon clan merely shows compassion for the humble humans and other races. Only out of mercy did they make an agreement with the master. Yet now a mere puppet dares to command the great dragon. But the master told him he was wrong. The one who showed mercy in the end was not the dragon. It was the master himself. When he made the agreement in the forest, it was to separate the races. It was the arrogance of the dragon clan that led to the ancient race wars. I never expected that their nature remains unchanged to this day. They are still so self-righteous. Barlot was unwilling to listen any longer. He interrupted the teacher. And he invoked his own spell. He even called his master an old hag. At that moment, I spoke up. I asked him what this lizard was doing here. Speak properly to my master. Otherwise, I'll strip you of everything. Borodual instantly flew into a rage. How dare a little kid challenge the dignity of the dragon clan? Not tearing him apart would be a disgrace to his identity. I easily dodged his claws that slashed at me. Then I bent down. I kicked him hard in the jaw. Borodu instantly flew 5 meters away. Then he knelt on the ground, gasping for breath. Just when he wondered how I had such strength, I had already walked in front of him. I lifted his head with my foot, and told him to address my teacher properly from now on. You must speak while kneeling. Do you understand? Borodu didn't expect that a humble human would dare to say such things to a noble dragon. Seeing his defiant expression, I told him not to be so arrogant. He should admit defeat before I end him, or he might just keep his life. Borodu couldn't hold it in anymore. He grabbed my foot and threw me out forcefully. He wanted me to know that just because I had Varadin's backing, I couldn't act recklessly. When I was thrown out, my master's expression showed no emotion at all, and he didn't say a word, because he understands my strength. Soon my figure emerged from the dust. I brushed off the dust from my clothes. If my 9-star magician butler, Alan, saw me, he would probably hassle me to choose from 10 sets of outfits. I turned to ask Charlotte beside me. Now you should see your uncle's true colors. The uncle he mentioned. It's just pure trash. Knowing the truth, Charlotte couldn't help but cry. I pulled him up. I wanted him to remember this guy's ugly face. This person harmed your father. The roommate even treated your mother as a toy. Although I promised his mother to take responsibility for him, I slowly pulled out the accessory from my waist. Turn and tell him. What's more important is his own choice. Now I need to prove it to him. The retired, overweight Hulk is lost. And he's colorblind. He can't see the traffic lights. In the blink of an eye, a 100-ton truck is about to hit him. The test results show his head is harder than the truck's front. Then he swung his fist. The truck driver was taken offline. The co-workers nearby cursed the damned monster under their breath. Whenever they encounter a creature known as a mutant, humans have no chance of survival. A colleague nearby was in tears. The driver who just died was his close friend, and his wife had just gone into labor. In the blink of an eye, a figure appeared above. He instinctively began to run, but the monster leaped and was right in front of him. It lifted him off the ground. The monster's hands were stained with countless blood. He treated human lives like weeds. At that moment, a brave wrench flew in. The foreman shouted to his co-workers, "You fools! Get up quickly! Even if I die, I can't die without dignity." Little did he know, a certain person floated past him. The man comforted himself, thinking he might be the first to stand up to that kind of person, and still survive. But that person picked up a container, and hurled it towards him. He thought to himself, "This time it's decided." A figure whizzes through the space between 8 and Q. With one kick, he sends the container flying. The older brother's expression seems to say, "Mom, I see an angel." In almost an instant, the boy with the mask like the wind lands in front of the older brother. Then he seriously asks the monster, "What's your name? Can you speak?" I see a person slowly opening their mouth and making strange noises, but their body has already turned red. This means they have entered a state of anger. Leave. This little ant in front of me actually dared to speak to me. The unsuspecting boy is knocked away by a single blow. The monster pursues relentlessly. The boy's leg is grabbed by the monster. With just one strike, the boy is sent into the container. At this moment, the battle is being closely watched by all sides. The TV station is broadcasting live. Military personnel have also arrived at the port. The commander instructs everyone not to fire. According to the intelligence team's assessment, the current White Hat boys' combat power has already surpassed the total strength and firepower of all the forces at the port. If the boy is uncertain, sending the army in would be pointless. Only that person can help. Call for assistance without interfering with the boy, and he will surely receive support. The man rolls over and jumps onto the roof of the car. He fires a specially made bullet. He makes a perfect shot, but something seems off. The expected kill did not happen. That monster was merely enraged. Then it charges at B, furious. B fires bullets like they're free, but the monster stubbornly endured the shots and slowly approached. Just then, the boy walked out of the container. Big guy, you've got trouble. I told you not to speak. I told you to be polite. You think you're handsome? The massive shockwave was like a tsunami. People from all walks of life were so shocked they couldn't speak. But suddenly, a figure appeared behind the boy. The boy was shocked. He realized he hadn't sensed the arrival. He saw that the person had a wicked smile. You really are fierce, kid. All this just to find you. I really put in a lot of effort. The legendary White Hat superhero, ENGSUB. He doesn't want others to know he's a superhero. What should he do? Because of this, he lives in fear every day. When the school alarm announces a monster attack, he pretends to be fast asleep, praying that his classmates and teachers will leave quickly. But at that moment, the class beauty was not cute at all. He discovered a sleeping boy in front of him. He kindly reminded him to hurry up and leave the school. The boy had to pretend to be lazy. He said he needed to stretch out 100 times before he could move after waking up. As the class beauty left, he thought the boy must be a bit odd. Finally, he was gone. Making up lies is always this difficult. Then he confirmed again that no one was around. He quietly opened his bag to check the disguise equipment. To be more cautious, he went into the restroom to start getting ready. He put on his headphones. He tightened the black eye mask. He hid the backpack in the ceiling. Most importantly, he had to wear the white hat properly. It set off towards the location where the monster appeared. This type of monster, called a human, began appearing in major cities around the world a few years ago. They seem to harbor a deep hatred for humanity. They annihilate every human they encounter. Human armies are no match for them. On the human side, there have also been those with superhuman abilities. There are fewer than 10 publicly identified superheroes worldwide. In our country, there is only one unnamed superhero in a white hat. Over the years, there have been a total of 37 documented monster attack incidents. However, aside from the 5 incidents handled by the presumed white hats and the 18 resolved by known superheroes, there are still 14 incidents that remain unknown. It's not hard to deduce that there must be other anonymous superheroes. The boy doesn't understand why other superheroes hide their identities. He simply doesn't want to lose his peaceful school life. But as long as the monster appears in Benbow, he must smash them to pieces. The mother of the rescued child wanted to come forward to thank him, but the boy didn't want to reveal his voice. With a loud bang, he leaped into the air, disappearing into the night under the astonished and grateful gazes of the people. This time, he had just finished dealing with another monster at the port, when an unexpected guest entered his view. Behind him, there was a tightly wrapped companion. Upon closer inspection, it seemed to be a woman. The man suggested wanting to spar with the boy, but this was strange. After the fight, there was a live broadcast in the air. The military was also observing the battlefield. The boy was afraid of his identity being exposed. I just want to leave quickly. But the man started praising the boy. He said the boy's earlier fighting had a bit of Tomato Hero style. This struck a chord with the boy. Tomato Hero is the male lead of a popular drama. His fearless hero image has long been the boy's idol. Are you speaking from the heart? In what specific ways are we similar? But there are so many people here. Let's change places. Can you explain it to me properly? But the man said, if you don't fight back, I'll just go back to your school to find you. The young man was stunned. This man actually knows his background. The man continued, saying he could also go find your friend Hong Mao. It's the friend you're communicating with in your earphones right now. He is indeed a technical genius. Actually, there were several times I wanted to protect him. The anger of youth. Jolie is his closest buddy. Every time they take action, Jolie is directing from behind. According to Jolie, this can compensate for the youth's intellectual shortcomings. Jolie also taught herself that when fighting monsters, it's best to ask if they can talk first, because she sensed there would definitely be monsters that could speak. At this moment, the boy could no longer think of so much. For his friend, he had to take action. An incredible energy surged from the heavens. Here it is said, I was originally a carefree superhero. Fists are only for those who matter. If I give up, I might be bullied by the cow. Then I punch the cow's owner. The math teacher neglects his duties to teach art. But his painting skills are extraordinary. Anyone who sees it is captivated. He points to the blackboard and says this is a form of evil. He turns around and sees the students seem particularly insightful today. Then he began to tell of a danger posed by certain people. They slaughter humanity. As if it were merely instinct. They would eliminate everyone in sight. But we, as humans, must strive for self-improvement. Young people must strive even harder. Then he turned and painted with his soul, and passionately spoke of a resilient young man who emerged in our country. He is the White Hat hero. To this day, no one knows his true identity, but he has truly protected us time and time again. Many people have made baseless speculations about him, but the White Hat has never justified himself. He responds to the public with his heroic deeds. In the eyes of this soul artist, he is a model for our generation. Students, no matter how difficult the future may be for humanity, young people are always the hope of our world. You must work hard and strive for excellence. Become the pillars of society. Do not indulge in play. Do not waste your precious youth. Meanwhile, the wise students are already peacefully asleep. On the teacher's way home, he was in tears. He was driving, but his gaze fell on a photo. It was of the person who caused his death. And today is the anniversary of his son's death. Son, are you very lonely? But there are no monsters in heaven. Today your brothers and sisters are all studying hard. They all said they would bravely fight against the monsters. Son, Dad misses you. But the teacher doesn't know. The white-faced superhero he speaks of is actually his own student. The kid next door who always treats his class like a lullaby. At this moment, Lin Jiang is fighting fiercely with a man in black. Their collision is like a mountain roaring and a tsunami crashing. If Lin Jiang doesn't take action, the man in black will threaten his friend. This situation is indeed difficult, because Lin Jiang is reluctant to expose too much to the public aside from daily monster hunting. But since it has come to this, then let's do it. You will be amazed. The man in black lightly landed on his arm. I thought you really wouldn't let this go. I didn't expect you to hold back so much. Then the man in black jumped down and said it was pointless. If the two really let loose and fought, this port would truly sink into the sea. Well then, see you later. White Hat, remember my name. I just threw it away recklessly. After the man left, the girl in the red robe joined him. The girl asked if he was okay after that clash. Is your arm all right? He chuckled and said not to joke around. The boy in the white hat is just a kid, but he was clearly hiding the tremor in his arm. This confrontation caught the attention of superhero organizations from various countries. Seeing the man in black, they finally understood that those anonymous superheroes were terrifyingly powerful. This is a dockworker stepping forward to thank the white hat. Unaware of the exposure, the white hat made a loud sound like an instrument. He never seeks recognition for defeating monsters and saving people. Yet, he is a legend in the school. Every time he confronts a monster, it becomes a hot topic online. On the way to school, two classmates discuss who is stronger, the white hat or the man in black. Lin Jiang tries to keep his mind clear of distractions. Unmoved. As they chatted on, the blonde said a rumor that white hat is actually not human. He is a robot developed by the military. Lin Jiang's face twitched, but the dark-haired classmate disagreed. He believed that White Hat is a flesh-and-blood hero. He got excited as he spoke. Unexpectedly, he accidentally bumped into a passerby. He took a closer look. It turned out to be a member of the campus military knife faction. The black-haired student immediately suppressed him. This big guy was quite pleased with his own intimidation, but he noticed someone who was defiant. He shouted at Lin Jiang, "Hey, weren't you just messing with me?" He leaned in closer and said, "I remember your face now. You'll have it coming later." Lin Jiang hurriedly turned his head to the side. "Yes, I'm sorry, big brother." He felt a chill run through him. He didn't even know if his acting had improved. The young man was meant to be a hero fighting demons. Yet, he couldn't even manage a zipper. Being laughed at by the class beauty. On the way to school, I was threatened by that punk. I didn't dare to speak. What's even scarier is, that punk is also a member of the school's knife gang. Classmates say the knife gang is like a shadow over the school. It makes the whole school feel oppressive. So to hide my superhero identity, the boy is always on edge all day long. He works quietly and diligently. He only wants his acting to be passable. The school cafeteria has always been a place of gossip. The troublemakers like to show off when there are more people around. Members of Class 3's gang strut around proudly. Little do they know, a legendary figure stands behind them. This boy named Kwanju is a solitary, reclusive wanderer. He never initiates trouble, but he single-handedly took down another school. All the big shots transferred here because of that. And it all started when those arrogant big shots tried to mess with him. At this moment, the socially anxious superhero is focused on his meal. But someone pulls out a chair to sit beside him. Looking closely, it's Kwanja. Kwanja asks Lin Jiang if he also has no friends. Then, feeling wronged, she said she also eats alone every day. Lin Jiang thought, aside from the self-proclaimed genius Jolie, he really has no friends either. So, the two of them dejectedly put down their bowls and chopsticks. And suddenly felt that the food had lost its taste. Suddenly, a person flew past them. It turned out this classmate had just blocked the path of the army knife gang. I saw this group of delinquents walking all crooked. To be honest, they looked a bit imposing. The leader, Chui Tai, was in a really bad mood today. Especially after seeing Lin Jiang, who had bumped into him this morning. But upon closer inspection, Zhengzhu was sitting next to Lin Jiang. So he prepared to vent his anger on the guy who had just blocked his way. At this moment, no one dared to step forward to help. But the class beauty jumped out. Stop it, you bunch of scumbags. Chui Tai was shocked. All the classmates were stunned. Chui Tai casually threw aside his earlier prey. He walked up to the class beauty and said, "This is too interesting. A girl actually wants to stand up for someone." But his hand was caught by someone. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be the authority figure. Chui Tai's mood had sunk to an all-time low today. He turned around and kicked out with one leg. "You bastard. You won't even let me finish speaking?" Chui Tai covered his face, saying he had to regain his dignity today. At that moment, came in and stopped him. The one who got blown up is actually the third in command of the knife gang. Nangong Wu is rumored to be. There are three key figures in the knife gang. Nangong Wu is the most ruthless among them. As for the leader, Park Jindao, he seems to have never taken any action. The third of the Golden Knife Gang comforts the second as they go out. Then he turns to John Cheol and says, "I've heard of you. But what you did today is a bit inappropriate. One day you'll regret it." While they were fighting, Lin Jiang focused on finishing his meal. Then he couldn't help but let out a big burp. The classmates were stunned. What's going on? Did it just thunder? On this day, Zhou Liu walked down the street feeling gloomy. She was already out of money for meals. She never expected that the Superman, Lin Jiang, who lived with her, could eat so much. And her sister, who must be sending her money. Because she worked at a secret research institute. There was really no way to get in touch with her. But where there's a will, there's a way. An advertisement is posted on the utility pole. The prize for an arm wrestling competition is an astonishing 80 million. Looks like it's time for Lin Jiang's food lover to step up. Meanwhile, in an internet cafe at night, Chui Tai and his crew gather together. The prize amount has left Chui Tai a bit dazed. He then orders his subordinate to contact their boss, Park Jindao, about the arm wrestling competition this weekend. The knife gang is preparing to go all out. The young man was originally a superhero protecting a nation, but he joined an arm wrestling competition for a few coins. First, the champion's prize of 80 million is quite substantial. Second, his appetite is too big. He spent the last penny he'd borrowed from his friend's family. He ate the last grain of rice at home. At this moment, the two of them hear the host shouting number 82 like a broken record. Jolie turned around and asked what number you were. "It turns out I'm number 82. So why are you still standing there?" Lin Jiang, with a positive attitude, rushed over breathlessly. Behind him, Jolie reminded him to perform normally. Lin Jiang had a wise expression. That seemed quite reliable. "Don't worry, Jolie. It's just about controlling the intensity to win the match. As for making money, leave that to me." Before going on stage, Lin Jiang happens to run into his opponent. The strong man says, "With your small frame, you might as well forfeit now. Save yourself from getting hurt later. Don't step on it, don't bite." It's the fault of Shirley's turn. So the two came to the ring. Suddenly, the strong man exerted all his strength. Lin Jiang suddenly understood. It turns out that this arm wrestling sport requires such foundational movements. Then, there was a loud crack. Jolie was already going crazy inside. Didn't you say you could perform normally? You might still lose, right? The second opponent told Lin Jiang. It's okay if you lose this time. After all, you are still young. Just practice more. You still have a chance to win the championship in the future. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. 3 will lose, 3 will lose. Young man, even if you lose the match, we can still be friends. That's called sportsmanship. Host, I was wrong. But my we will really be skilled. The host has already lost count of how many ambulances have come. I was thinking, if this is how much medical expense it takes in the preliminary rounds, it seems this competition is going to run at a loss. The competition has finally reached the knockout stage. Nan Gongwu from the Blade Gang has also passed the preliminary round. And his teammate is Cui Tai, also from the Blade Gang. The most mysterious leader of the Blade Gang, Park Jundao, has also passed the preliminary round. But strangely, his opponent chose to forfeit. The second and third leaders of the Blade Gang will compete in the first match. At this moment, Nan Gongwu took off his sunglasses. The younger brother in the audience interpreted that Nangong's sunglasses were a seal. When he took off the sunglasses, it was equivalent to making a fatal gamble. Nangong's sparkling eyes gazed affectionately at Cui Tai. Don't look at me. In the end, Nan Gongwu, who had taken off his glasses, still couldn't defeat Cui Tai. His opponent, Lin Jiang, looked like an enlightened monk. The monk's name is Meng Yi. I have a discerning eye. I can see the turmoil in your heart. If I'm not mistaken, you, like me, possess extraordinary power. The spirit was astonished, thinking perhaps the other is also a hidden superhero. Come on, owner, don't run away. Wait until it's handed over. Once the cup is closed, it can't hold anything else. He feels like the person opposite him is an unmovable mountain. Learning from previous lessons by the river, putting on quite a performance. It's really not easy. Acting is way more exhausting than fighting monsters. Meanwhile, Park Jundao, who advanced directly due to his opponent's forfeit, is staring at his phone screen, with a furrowed brow. He sees his underlings in the group chat trying to take credit. It turns out they used despicable kidnapping tactics to force the opponent to forfeit. Then the boss walks over to the second and third guys. He first kicks the fatty away. Then he slaps Choi Tail away. Do you only bully the weak all day? Is collaborating on such despicable acts all you do? Then he announced to the host that he was withdrawing. I never expected the notorious leader of the Knives Gang to be such a principled person. In the semifinals, Lin Jiang faced Cui Tai. Thinking of what Cui Tai did at school, Lin Jiang exerted just a little effort. Then Cui Tai was crouching on the ground. It hurts so much that I can't even speak. So the host announces that Lin Jiang has entered the finals. Jolie, praise me quickly. My control over strength now can be used for personal vendettas. Lin Jiang's final opponent is a dancer. He comes from a martial arts school called Zaiwugwan. Today, his master is also here at the venue. But this group of dancers seems a bit off in the head. They shouted I love you, I love you. Go, go. Do the show-offs not care about their pride? As soon as the finals began, the dancers went all out. But he felt a force that didn't belong to humans. It was like facing off against an ancient mammoth. Sure enough, Lin Jiang has won the championship. Have you thought about how to spend the prize money? I want to sell a lot of food. I have a good suggestion for you, Lin Jiang contestant. Recently, there's been a frequent outbreak of a human disaster. Why not consider donating a portion to help those in need? Lin Jiang turned around. He saw several pairs of hopeful eyes. What you are, what you are. At this moment, Jolie in the audience has completely lost it. The competition is over. The dancer uncle unexpectedly comes over to congratulate. He even hands out a business card inviting Lin Jiang to visit the martial arts school. At this time, his master glanced at Lin Jiang. In the next moment, the trophy in Jolie's hand ended up in the old man's hands. Lin Jiang immediately stood in front of Jolie. He sensed that this old man was anything but simple. The old man said, "Your instincts are quite sharp. I didn't expect to meet an old man like you here. Finally, I see the true face beneath your white hat." Saying this, the old man turned and walked away. If you want to retrieve the trophy, come find me at Longpu Mountain. And at this moment, on the other side of the world, a small fishing boat drifts on the vast ocean. Behind the small boat, it seems a large fish is following. The fisherman has also sensed something is wrong. He wants to see what it is. But suddenly, a huge shadow appears in the sea. It quickly approaches the fishing boat, and suddenly, help me. My location is at latitude 33. On a nearby giant cruise ship, people are leisurely enjoying the summer sun. The captain ordered the crew to search in the direction of the distress signal. He said resolutely that in this age of monsters, humanity must unite. And so, not long after, the fisherman finally waited for the cruise ship that would rescue him. But strangely, lying on the deck was someone who looked exactly like him. In a conference room, a powerful figure was pounding the table in distress. The blonde man said seriously, "The situation is quite serious this time. A cruise ship with 3,000 passengers has been attacked by some people." And across from him were the two superheroes who had already revealed their identities. Superwoman Serpent Pearl and Man Super, Galen Wadrew. Wadrew said this is going to be tough. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. The passengers have nowhere to escape. Wadrew, stop talking nonsense. The situation is urgent. Let's move quickly. After Superman left, the leader took a deep breath. Truly, he is Superman. Even sharing the same room creates such a strong sense of pressure. On the way, Huang Mao introduced the details of the incident to the two superheroes. It will take us 2 hours to get there. There are a total of 3,000 people on board, including tourists and crew. Currently, their fate and the condition of the ship remain unknown. At that time, the situation was urgent. The two were far apart. So the Navy first dispatched elite forces for rescue, but they arrived only 20 minutes later. Everyone was out of communication. Meanwhile, the cruise ship was still navigating automatically. Its final destination was land, so the authorities approved actions before it landed. The fighter jet group will carry small nuclear bombs to destroy the cruise ship. Pell said, "What if there are survivors on the ship?" The blonde's body has already started to tremble. The situation on the ship is unknown, but we can't let a certain group land on land. This approach is indeed a last resort. You don't need to be nervous. We will definitely handle this properly. As they spoke, the helicopter had already arrived above the cruise ship. The two superheroes were ready to jump down from here. Before leaving, Pell said to contact your superior. Tell them we have arrived. The order to intercept the missiles can be rescinded. The two reached the deck. They found the scene was devastating, due to the size of the ship. So the two decided to search separately. Pell slammed his fist against the hull. Then he sprang back up. After a loud bang, he entered the cabin. In his line of sight, there was nothing unusual. Meanwhile, Wadrew entered from the cockpit. Here, it was a different scene. The ground is covered in bodies. No one survived. Searching in the net, he unexpectedly found a familiar figure. That silhouette was clearly Pelko. How could Pelko be here? He was just in the bottom cabin. Pelko, is that you? Why did you come up so quickly? Damn, what is going on here? The Superman, who has never shed a drop of blood, has lost an arm. This excruciating pain has made him experience the fear of mortals. He can't believe it. The one who caused him to lose his arm is actually his partner. The fierce attack arrived as expected. He reminded himself to stay calm. Sure enough, the partner he saw earlier was indeed fake. It was conjured by the monster before him. He tore off his shirt to wrap his severed arm. He was furious, but his anger didn't stem from the severed arm. It was because the monster dared to defile his partner, Pell. The hero in his heart is brave, serious, and relentless, always tirelessly saving humanity. At first, he took down a gang by himself. His Superman identity was discovered by the hero. The hero invited him to be his partner, together to save humanity. At that time, he was rebellious. Above all else, the only reason he accepts Pearl's request is for a meal. Pearl never minds his prickly demeanor. She always reminds him like a mother hen how important the mission is, calm yet insisting he wear that ridiculous superhero suit. To Pearl, everything is secondary, except saving humanity. Every battle, Pell always charges to the front, fighting to the end like an untiring iron spike. Redrew has never told his partner that ever since their first mission, he has admired Pell. In his heart, Pell has long been like a sister to him, but this bastard monster dares to defile humanity's hero. During the battle, Viedlo felt it was getting tough. He vaguely discovered a problem. It seems that the monsters he and Pyre face on each mission are getting stronger. This means that the dangers facing the human world are increasing. It seems he must get serious. Viedlo spotted a wine barrel. He kicked it with a flying kick. Red wine flew towards the monster. It turned into a solid red form. Then, Wade picked up a bottle of beer. The beer condensed into a long sword. Since you can't speak, I won't give you time for last words. This strike destroyed half of the monster's head. The monster went completely mad. He could still burst forth with great vigor. Wade leaped into the air. DG kicked the fire sprinkler barrel to pieces. In an instant, water splashed everywhere. Then his eyes turned blank. The monster was instantly transformed into an ice sculpture. Wade's ability had truly amazed Pei at the time. He could use his mind to turn any liquid into solid. But it's not just frozen in ice. Instead, it has transformed into a new substance harder than diamond. Looking at the motionless monster in front of him, Wade thought he had wasted too much time. He needed to eliminate the monster quickly and meet up with Pur. But suddenly, before he died, he couldn't believe there was still another monster here. This situation has never occurred. All the monster attacks humanity has faced so far have been singular. When a monster appears on a cruise ship and is about to crash into the shore, will you choose to sacrifice the 3,000 people on the cruise ship? Or let the monster come ashore and destroy a city of 200,000 people? At this moment, the president's office is silent, caught in a dilemma. Before the two superheroes board the cruise ship, Superwoman Pearl advises that the missile attack must be called off. The original military plan was to destroy the cruise ship with missiles before it landed. A congressman says, "Mr. President, please order an immediate withdrawal of the missiles." The two superheroes are already on the cruise ship, and they have never failed to deal with monsters. Another member denied it. "You are oversimplifying things. A mature crisis. You must have a backup plan. Just because we have never lost doesn't mean we won't. Could you please explain why we haven't been able to contact the two heroes until now?" They are unaware that Superman Wydrew has just been killed by two monsters, and Pur is in the hull's bottom compartment, causing communication signals to be obstructed. The argument in the office grew more intense. At this moment, the president spoke. "I order the missiles to be recalled. Execute the order immediately. I trust Superman Pell." A year ago, during a heavy rain, the president risked danger to confront the monster outbreak. At that time, Pell had just dealt with the monster threat. "Ms. Pell, please forgive my boldness in coming here. I just wanted to express my gratitude to you. The people of my country and I owe Superman a great debt." Pell's expression remained calm in the rain. Then he turned to save someone. Such matters have nothing to do with favors. Pell's departing figure would forever be etched in the president's mind. At this moment, Pierre broke through the crowd to meet with Wei Delu, and he saw Wei Delu. The Wei Delu who never liked to hear him ramble. The Wei Delu who always thought Superman was overly cautious. The Wei Delu who said he would rationally choose to run away if he ever encountered Pierre's uncontrollable monster. Dead, he was nothing but a nonsensical fool. What was this about rationally and calmly choosing to escape? Pierre walked heavily towards Wei Delu. He leaned down and immersed himself. It seemed he didn't see the monster's tentacle piercing his shoulder. He helped Vitero close his eyes. Then he slowly stood up. Suddenly, he turned around sharply. An instant surge of violent energy made the monster stand rigid. His instinct for survival pulled him back in an instant. But the monster trembles without pause. At that moment, the woman is like a demon from hell. "Since I began to clean up your trash, today is the worst day for you. Your death will be announced by me." She screams in silence, trembling uncontrollably. But there is no escape for her. Only by fighting for oneself can one carve out a glimmer of hope. At this moment, The legion behind Per, trapped by Vidru, also began to stir. The shapeshifter within the legion quietly broke free. It opened its mouth wide and launched a fierce sneak attack. When Per turned around, he saw the shapeshifter slowly transforming into Vidru's appearance. Pel's anger has reached its peak. Now I finally understand how Vidru fell for it. He is usually rude and irritable. He definitely can't go to heaven, then go to hell and beg him for mercy. I saw that light pierce through the ship's hull. It illuminated the pitch-black sea, like a requiem dedicated to a dear friend. At this moment, the staff received a call. He reported to the president the news of the crew's rescue. The president finally couldn't hold back. He started to cry tears of joy. But then the man reported the news of Wade's sacrifice. In an instant, the celebratory atmosphere came to a halt. It was as if a finger called sadness suddenly pressed the mute and pause buttons. The next day, in a car, this man frantically dials a number. He is actually calling a man named Ben from the Pearl team. Something big has happened. Mr. Wadru's corpse is missing. The muscular superhero loves to wear a pink bodysuit. He even gave himself a girlish nickname. He calls himself Tomato Man, facing evil. He always shatters the darkness with thunder, striking his opponents with a tomato smash full of juice. Every time he handles a threat, he wears a solemn expression, selflessly allowing the crowd to admire his heroic image. But he is not actually Superman. He is a character in the popular drama Tomato Hero. His #1 fan, Lin Jiang, always stays up watching TV. But Lin Jiang is a real superhero. He has never revealed his identity. People can only refer to him as the White Hat Hero based on his outfit. Today is the day that Tomato Hero crew is coming to the city. Lin Jiang looks at his friend with bloodshot eyes. No matter what, I have to drag Jolie to the airport to welcome Tomato Man. However, the first one to arrive at the airport is a different kind of person. He notices a plane flying in from a distance suddenly accelerating and starting to run. The airport broadcast immediately issues a monster invasion alert. People begin to panic and run. Jolie hurriedly rummages through Lin Jiang's gear, but she can't find the white hat. Meanwhile, Lin Jiang grabs the eye mask and rushes out. He also conveniently stole a white hat along the way. At this moment, that kind of person had already reached the front of the plane. He exerted force, jumping straight up. The plane's wing was almost completely smashed. Fortunately, the captain's skills were excellent. Though it was shaky, the plane finally came to a stop, but that monster actually grabbed a forklift and threw it at the plane. In a critical moment, a boy in a white hat appeared. He kicked the forklift away and landed it safely. "What's your name? Can you talk?" Then the boy in the white hat grabbed the forklift. "Can't speak, huh? No manners, huh?" The monster leaps up sharply to dodge. The forklift is quite agile, too, but the white-hatted kick is already at hand. The white hat thinks this monster is a bit different. Why does it feel like hitting clay? At that moment, the white hat's earpiece beeps. Jolie found a computer at the boarding gate and established a communication link with Lin Jiang. "Jolie, get home quickly. You're too close, it's dangerous." The white hat charged forward again. To face the monster, his cheeks puffed up, and he unexpectedly sprayed out a mouthful of ink. The monster, seeing it couldn't take down the white hat for now, then it withdrew its position. After that, it let out a roar into the sky. It spat out countless eggs into the air. Just then, one egg fell next to Jolie. The next eggshell cracked open. A small alien creature emerged from inside. Jolie hid behind a pillar, too scared to make a sound. Just then, the phone on the table rang. "Jolie, where are you? Hurry up and talk." So Jolie quickly fled. But the monster soon found another prey. Brave Jolie swung a hammer at the monster. But he is still just a mortal. As the monster approached Jolie, he felt a deep sense of fear. It turns out Lin Jiang has been fighting such terrifying monsters all along. At that moment, the monster that had just laid its eggs on the runway turned red. Lin Jiang's first reaction was to save Jolie, but a small monster that didn't know better lunged at him. As a result, it was knocked out by Lin Jiang with one punch. Then he leaped forward. But he was blocked by an adult monster. At that moment, Jolie was about to lose her life. Suddenly, a screech flew in. I am the bee monster in its full form. I am currently battling the white hat. Everyone, follow my orders. Attack all monster larvae. Everyone, assist the white hat. At this moment, the monster larvae outside the airport are tearing through the airplane's shell. Passengers inside the cabin are in a panic. The agent called Rose stepped forward to call for everyone to remain calm. Beside him stood the star, the lead in the hit series, Tomato Man. But at that moment, Tomato Man was holding his head, with a troubled expression. At that moment, the capsule's outer shell was breached. A monster larva burst in. Instantly, the capsule was filled with whales. But suddenly, the monster was ejected from the cabin as a larva. A towering figure appeared in the monster's spray. At that moment, another larva burst into the cabin. The figure stepped forward. With one hand, he grabbed the monster. The monster's fists hit him like a tickle. The Rose behind him was stunned. Tomato Man dared not look into his old partner's eyes. Rose, it seems my career is coming to an end. It has truly been a joy working with you. As Tomato Man speaks, Rose is in tears. She recalls all the moments they shared. Tomato Man, holding the monster conflict chamber, says, I'm sorry, Rose. You've been fired. Reverse Spike. As a mortal, he constantly yearns to step into the battlefield of the superhumans. Faced with terrifying monsters, he, with his mortal flesh, can only choose to attack from a distance. But these attacks can't kill the monsters. They can at most only enrage them. To this end, he sacrifices most of his body to implant mechanical weapons for himself. The staff introduced that the equipment called the Super Magnetic Ghost Hand Cannon is not yet mature enough. Its ammunition was developed by a genius female researcher. Using this weapon in combat actually consumes life. The man showed no hesitation. He demanded that they equip him immediately. His name is Bai Ta Ming, and he remembers he is a warrior. He does not want to see monsters harm the people, yet he feels powerless. He hopes to fight alongside the White Hat hero. He has never seen Superman take a step back in the face of monsters, so even if he dies in battle, he will have no regrets. He unzips his sleeve. He throws away his gloves. I am B. All team members, heed my command. Make sure to kill all the monster pups. Even if it costs us our lives, we must not hesitate. Just pulling the bolt caused him immense pain. Then he opened his mouth and shouted for C. His beloved dog, C, rushed out. He grabbed the ammo from C's back and loaded it into his arm. The intense pain made him howl at the sky, but he instantly forced himself to calm down. After one shot, the monster is heavily injured again, but it lunges at him once more. Sick ammo. A sense of helplessness washes over the man. He actually needs 2 shots to the same spot to take down a monster cub. At this moment, his eye receiver signals that another cub is approaching from outside. At this moment, C has only 1 round of ammunition left. I see the monster has already pounced. Only 1 shot left. If I die on the battlefield today, that would be acceptable to me. This short knife is called the poison dagger. As long as it pierces the same wound, damn it. He stabbed into the monster's wound, but his chest was also pierced by the monster. At this moment, on the airport runway outside, Tomato Man has just killed a monster cub. He sings the Tomato Hero theme song alone. He was originally the male lead of the hit show Tomato Hero, but today he faced a monster. He could only take action. I can no longer live as a capricious actor. I can't sing my own theme song. It's really uninteresting. I said it. I'm truly uninterested. Then, Tomato Man saw the monster's mother body in the distance. I am Tomato Man, mid-eon. Today, I will defeat you annoying octopus monsters. At this moment, the Pearl team watching the battlefield is shocked. Could this Tomato Man truly be a superhero? The contrast is hard to accept all at once. Pearl stares at the screen, recalling the moment he met Dean. At that time, Dean didn't look like a superhero at all. If it weren't for the monster attack, how long would he have kept this hidden? At this moment, Pear is getting a bit angry. How dare this man toy with him? Monster's mother body. Seeing the tomato, it roars in anger. The two are about to engage in a fierce battle. Suddenly, the figure of the man in the white hat appears. The monster is stunned. It remembers clearly that it had just collided with the white hat's head. The white hat that stands again radiates an overwhelming aura. The ground shakes violently where the three are standing. All of this is witnessed by the onlookers. The female companion anxiously asks what this aura is. It is the unique presence of the white hat. He is channeling energy, causing the space around him to warp. But this is not like his usual self. It feels more like he's fallen into an unconscious state. Superman lost his job for wearing a pink tight suit out of love. But he doesn't give up. He even plays himself in a film. This show is called Tomato Man. It has become a global hit. However, fate is unkind to the talented. The plane he was on was attacked by a monster. Tomato Superman is angry. His wonderful fan meeting has just gone to waste. And from now on, his superhero identity is exposed. He can no longer enjoy being a star. Just as he was about to deliver a decisive blow to the monster's core, the previously severely injured White Hat Superman stood up. At that moment, White Hat exuded an incredible aura. But it seemed like something was off with him. He appeared to have lost consciousness. At this moment, the monster chose to strike first. His fist was already in front of him. But the man in the white hat didn't dodge. Tomato Man was shocked. He clearly saw that in that fleeting moment, the man in the white hat struck like lightning. He attacked the monster's 7 different parts. With such speed, it seemed impossible for him to achieve. At this moment, the Tomato Man could see the strengths and weaknesses of the two. But at this time, the monster opened all its tentacles and wrapped around the white hat. Yet, the white hat remained completely still, when suddenly, the arrogant monster lost its claws. Then a voice rang out. "Stop right there." A strangely looking person came into view. White Hat Tomato. "Let go of that guy. What I said is not a request." Tomato is shocked. The other party is clearly a kind of person. Yet he can speak. And he didn't even notice the other party's arrival. It's surprising that Tomato thinks a kind of person can't speak. It makes me very angry. Why do humans both fear us and consider us inferior? Then with a flick of his hand, the monster rises up, instantly brought to his side. And why should our race's name be left to your naming? The beast immediately bowed down, and then the two began to communicate. "Do you still remember me, little one?" And then the monster was utterly heartless, as if it had suffered a great injustice. This really puts me in an awkward position. If that's the case, then did I call out for nothing? Did they let you go? Why do you want to make me angry? I will give this heart to a new master. This guy doesn't deserve to be with us. Then he ran back. Angry shot. Keep this safe. A green, meatball-like monster opened its mouth. It swallowed the heart in one bite. Then he said to the two superheroes, "Next, it's time to fix you properly." At that moment, the white hat suddenly stood up. He found Superman immediately blocking in front of him. "Don't act rashly. That guy in the white hat is no ordinary threat." But the white hat swung his fist at the obstructing Tomato. This strike shook the heavens and the earth. Even the mysterious beings took a hit. The fog clears. Tomato surprisingly takes the hit from the guy in the white hat. This guy is not normal. It's like he's lost his soul. Immediately, the guy in the white hat's momentum erupts again. He presses Tomato down. Tomato is angry. In an instant, his momentum surges. His own fist actually gathered a light of energy. With one punch, the white hat instantly vanished. Who knows how many walls it passed through. The white hat finally lay down quietly. "It's been a long time since I've moved like this. Now, old witch, it's your turn. If you want to die, come at me." Do you dare to explore the depths of the ocean? Do you know what unknown dangers lie in the deep sea? In the Mayan prophecy, the end of the world is at the end of 2012. The most advanced human deep-sea detector goes underwater. Soon, we arrive at the ocean's mesopelagic zone, 200 to 1,000 meters deep. Here, no sunlight can be seen. Surrounding us is only a gel-like darkness. From somewhere, a deep, resonant hum sounds almost like speaking. The old captain reassures the young crew member to suppress their fear. Never attempt to listen to those eerie voices. This time, we must find the Pandora's box. The young crew member dares not relax, staring at the screen, but feeling a stirring in my heart. The so-called Pandora's box. No one knows what it really is, even less what it will bring to humanity. As the probe descends to 10,000 meters, it finally detects ultrasonic echoes from deeper regions. Then the probe's lights are turned up to the maximum, and gradually slow down the descent speed. Suddenly, the crew was in shook oddly. After a brief dizziness, they were stunned by the sight before them. Unknowingly, they had stumbled into a graveyard of shipwrecks. Even more bizarre was the proximity. They couldn't detect the sound wave echoes at all. Moreover, the values of direction and depth in the detector completely disappeared. But the old captain spoke up. He started to drill down. I'm sure Pandora's box is right below. In the following years, a certain type of person began to appear in the human world. Wherever they went, countless lies were revealed. No one can say for sure if their appearance is related to the deep-sea exploration. But fortunately, humanity's superhuman abilities are more impressive. They can always handle monster attacks without a hitch. But today, something unexpected happened. A talking being has appeared in the monster camp. And on its first appearance, it provoked two superheroes. This incident is also being broadcast live to the world. People from all walks of life are gathering here. Seeing this situation, the mysterious superhero goes wild. He said he had long anticipated the existence of a stronger, more terrifying type of person. Today, this guy dared to appear in front of two superheroes. So he is definitely no ordinary character. What I didn't expect even more was the Tomato Superman emerging before him. His power is terrifying enough to briefly suppress the rampaging White Hat Superman. Looks like there's a good show coming up. Tomato Man dashed forward in a flash. His right fist was charged with energy. One person immediately understood. Tomato's ability is to gather all his energy into his fist. Then he clenched his fist in the air. Suddenly, the ground beside Tomato lifted up, as if it had come to life. With a loud bang, the tomato was smashed into the ground. Meanwhile, the brave superhero broke through the trees in an instant. It seemed he was about to get close to a certain person. But he noticed a strange formation appearing beneath that person's feet. Suddenly, a giant hand reached out from the formation. It struck the unsuspecting superhero. At the same time, a certain person heard a voice transmission. "Come back," and a person named Pan shouted Benuchel. Behind him, a large mass named Benuchel suddenly controlled itself. It began to deform above Pan's head. In an instant, it spread its body. It actually used its body to generate a spatial teleportation array. Impressive, Tomato. That last strike was genuinely lethal. I didn't expect it to just leave you with a small wound. But don't get too proud. Next time Tomato sees me, it will be your doom. Having said that, he leaped up, and his entire figure entered the space teleportation array. The exit of the space station was actually the area previously explored by humans. Tremble, humans. The gates of hell are officially open for you. This upside-down vampire is quite bold. He dares to enter the church all alone. He ruthlessly reaped the souls of the faithful here, then leisurely hung himself from the beam. He waits arrogantly for the pursuers. Meanwhile, outside the church, two figures, one fat and one thin, are known to be superhumans in hiding. The scene inside the church surprised them. The worshippers here seemed to be praying devoutly. But in fact, they had changed. Then they suddenly charged towards Superman. Thin Superman leaped up and said to Fat Superman, "Basrav, these people are not the same." But Basrav did not stay behind. Those believers came one after another. Baslav, they are still human. Foolish Kirill, they have long lost their humanity. Before we arrived, they had already fallen victim. This is the level of the enemy. It's not even enough for the superheroes to warm up. With a wave, they clear all the mutated vampires. At this moment, the true culprit is trapped above their heads. It's you, you stinky bat. Did you turn them into vampires? Basilov's strike was blocked by the bat's foot. Immediately, it leaped back and spread its wings. Did you kill Oper? He was the closest warrior to the peak, aside from Pan. The two superhumans were shocked. They had never seen a being that could speak. They saw the bat howl at the sky. It unleashed a sound wave attack. In the next instant, it vanished with a swift move. It delivered a heavy blow to Basilov, but Basilov steadied himself. Could I be mistaken? How could such strength kill Opiel? At that moment, Kirino in the distance waved his finger. A dazzling light shot toward the bat. Let him go. I'll play with you. He didn't sense anything coming at all. It seems you have a special ability. Kirilo witnessed an incredible scene. The monster's wounds actually began to heal. The bat swooped forward. Kirilo quickly retreated. His fingers moved constantly. A dazzling light appeared out of nowhere. It rushed toward the bat's eyes. He finally saw that beam of light evolve into a giant sword. Before the bat could catch its breath. Sensing danger, the bat shot upward. Suddenly, a giant sword appeared out of nowhere above. Actually, when Kirilov first met Basilov, he made the other party angry. He hid in the shadows and activated his skill, killing Basilov's prey. Basilov angrily reprimands for interfering in someone else's battle, calling it very rude. So Kirilov has no choice but to reveal himself. He tells the other party that he is also a Superman, but the main character is a wandering painter. Later, the two form a partnership. They introduce each other's skills. Kirilov says he can paint in the air with his mind. Then he can turn the created objects into stone. When I project or use these objects, there's no time at all in the moment they appear. The process transcends the realm of speed, but all abilities come with a backlash. As the usage of the ability increases, Kirilo is gradually losing his eyesight. Time rewinds. The bat loses an arm. He couldn't help but praise Kirilov for being more powerful than he had imagined, but he instantly vanished from sight. In the blink of an eye, he appeared right in front of him. Kirilov conjured a shield out of thin air to block the attack. Then he quickly painted using the shield's visual blind spot. A massive mace flew towards the bat with great force. Unfortunately, it still didn't crush his skull. At this point, blood was already starting to flow from Kirilov's eyes. His vision became increasingly blurry. When he looked closely, he found that the Batman was gone. Meanwhile, the Batman had silently approached him from behind. You are indeed remarkable, but it still won't change your fate of dying. Do you know what happens when a superhero has the skills of a master painter? He can play countless tricks on the battlefield. With a casual stroke, various weapons appear out of thin air. Moreover, their appearance is silent and unnoticed, transcending the concept of speed. He can even draw a shield to block attacks, then quietly continue drawing behind the shield, allowing a giant mace to smash the enemy away. But his casting animation is a bit long. In the end, Batman's claws split him in half. Just as Batman was feeling triumphant, the corpse of Superman beneath him suddenly transformed into specks of light. It turns out Superman created a decoy in a moment of crisis. The Soul Painter can always bring endless surprises to his opponents. But his skills can also backfire on his own forces. At this moment, Superman's eyes were already bleeding. Batman was seen launching a furious attack. He actually pulled up the enormous sword force with his hand. Then he started to scream wildly. At that moment, the fat Superman Basilov suddenly appeared. In front of Batman, the nearly blind Shinbi Mailing, Kaliro responded. He recalled when Basilov asked him why he ran with him. Kaliro's answer was that you are much stronger than me, Mr. Basilov. At this moment, Kirilov became agitated. It had been a long time since he had seen Basilov like this. Basilov exuded an overwhelming aura. The Batman sensed danger. He immediately dodged and fell back. Then he keenly noticed that the fat man in front of him seemed to have changed. He had visibly become thinner and smaller. Batman had to take the upcoming battle seriously. He was exhausting his own life force. He accelerated the healing of his severed arm and other wounds. Cirilo said that Guy has a terrifying regeneration ability. He must be dealt with before he recovers. But Baslov dismissed it. He said it didn't matter. Such an attitude could anger Batman. What you say doesn't matter. Just wait until I poke a hole in your foul mouth. Let's see if you can still talk big then. Then he lowered his body, and in the next second, it was like a lightning-fast whip. The speed was terrifying. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front. But Baslov didn't make any move. Back then, Kirilov knew Baslov's skills. Laughed so hard he spit out a pound of buns. The big guy actually gave his skill a funny name. It's called rapid digestion. While his body is rapidly digesting, all his abilities will rapidly enhance. Just like the fat he burns away, it grants him special energy. But this ability is a passive skill. The premise of taking action is having a powerful opponent forcing oneself into an unprecedented predicament. But up to now, no one has ever pushed their abilities to the limit. Pulling back to the battlefield, Laszlo managed to grasp the opponent's sharp forelimb in that moment. Congratulations, you managed to trigger my digestive ability in such a short time. Although I don't know why you can speak human language, I don't intend to listen to you any longer. The Batman felt acutely that, if he didn't escape, he would really die. He didn't hesitate at all. He started to run. Pig, please bless me. I mustn't die here. Lord, do you not like me? At this point, this bat who left no name has gone offline. Mr. Baslov, the impact is too great. This place is going to collapse. You weren't bitten by that vampire bat, were you? Have you ever seen an ant bite an adult? I'm starving right now. Let's hurry and eat the most authentic Chongqing hot pot. The commentator predicts the World Cup final will end in a draw. So he lost his job. And he transformed. He came back into action. Surprisingly, he became an expert on superhuman issues. The host listened to his insightful analysis. Already captivated. He said that monster attack incidents have been more frequent lately. I estimate that they will become even more frequent in the future. Currently, there are 3 known public superheroes. But I believe there should be more than just these 3 in the world. This is a landmark map of all the monster sightings in recent years. It's impossible to handle everything with just 3 superheroes. The host asked if you mean there are many superheroes in hiding. Just like our White Hat superhero. The situation with White Hat is different. Although we don't know his identity. But at least we know of his existence. The Earth is being protected by an unidentified superhuman. Data analysis has shown that ordinary humans cannot harm these monsters, except with nuclear-level weapons. Hero has no Superman. I am the only one on Earth. Regarding the true identity of the White Hat, this expert's speculation is quite accurate. The White Hat is likely a middle-aged person in their 40s. It's also very possible that it's a woman or a foreigner. The White Hat superhero watching TV says, Julie, praise me quickly. It seems that my usual concealment isn't working. Go away. Then the expert says, not at all. All superheroes stand on the side of humanity. It is rumored that there have been sightings of superheroes killing mortals abroad, and these incidents are not isolated. Just like the mysterious Black Cat Man and his red-caped partner who clashed with the White Hats during the port incident, they are likely enemies of humanity. Currently, there are 6 known superheroes. But just a few hours ago, a new superhero revealed their identity. He is a king of City S. Or perhaps a woman. She received the news. He expressed his willingness to cooperate with the authorities. And he has been protecting the green fruit all along. He also claims to be an old zombie with Superman power. This sudden news shocked Lin Jiang and Jolie. Jolie keenly sensed that a hidden superhero must not reveal his identity. The reason for revealing the identity must come with major actions that cannot be hidden from the public eye. After watching the show, Lin Jiang said he wanted to go find the old man from last time to get the trophy back. Lin Jiang could sense that the old man was a genuine superhero. Today at school, Lin Jiang listened to his classmates discussing the White Hat superhero and Tomato superhero. And there was Supergirl, Pearl. Suddenly, for a moment, he looked up at the sky, because he had a question in his heart. Who am I, really? What is the meaning of my existence? Compared to the black hat hero who once attacked himself, the old man from last time did not show hostility. Lin Jiang feels he might find an answer for himself. Jolie worries that the old man is a fraud. No matter what, we have to go together. He takes out his pipe. Last time there was an airport attack. Jolie's leg injury has not healed yet. Jolie, I'll go by myself. That's fine, I'm very wise now. Stop talking nonsense. We're leaving now. At this moment, in a mysterious underwater base, a strange-looking person remains silent. Behind him, someone notices something is wrong and asks, "What's wrong with Daomei?" That person Graver has been killed. Everyone around is shocked. This presumptuous stupid bat only needed to find Opie's body. He must have taken it upon himself to fight Superman. Don't worry about the bat. I've sensed who our greatest obstacle is. It's that white hat Superman. How long does it take to become a qualified Superman? This guy works hard every day, fighting monsters on the clock. The intensity of 996 makes him doze off in every class. Even so, he still wants to go up the mountain to seek out the wise. To improve his skills, his friend Jolie is worried. Dragging his injured leg with crutches, he insists on coming along. However, the destination, Longpu Mountain, is too obscure. The two waited for 3 hours but didn't see a bus. Julie, my teammate, just shut up. To get to this station, they have been tossing and turning. For 2 hours of subway and walking, followed by 3 bus rides and more walking. Finally, the bus of their dreams arrives. But the scenery along the way becomes more primitive. They finally get off the bus and walk again. 2 hours later. Finally, I see the sign for the martial arts school. Go straight and turn right. It's a walking tour. Lin Jiang, you're a superhero. Don't you know to lend a hand? Is this how you act as a superhero, Lin Jiang? You don't even think about carrying someone with a disability? Jolie, you make a lot of sense. You're very insightful. Jolie, are we rock climbing or traversing a cave? Heaven rewards those who are determined. The two finally saw the light through the clouds. The first person they encountered was the arm wrestling competition. Their opponent from Lingjiang. His name is Wen Xiao. At this moment, the old man also held the trophy and was bleeding. He looked quite disheveled. He and Wen Xiao were playfully comparing their hearts. The two of them were saying I love you, keep it up, keep it up. Then he swung his hand and threw the trophy away. He returned it to Lin Jiang and said, are you really just here for the trophy? Jolie doesn't hold back, that's for sure. You old rascal. You stole someone's things and made them run this far. The old man dodged quickly, slipping between the two of them. Then I apologize. I admit, I'm not always clean with my hands. There's nothing else. You may leave now. Then he came alone to the edge of the cliff. In the glow of the setting sun, his clothes billowed. He looked like an unparalleled master. Sensing someone approaching behind him, he felt a secret joy in his heart. But calmly turning back, he asked why I was still following him. The old man said people call me Superman. But I don't know what Superman really is. Nor do I know who I really am. The old man then picked up a stone. If I throw this stone, can you pick it up before it hits the bottom of the cliff? At this moment, Lin Jiang felt a bit confused. But that old man suddenly darted behind the two. He raised his old foot towards someone's back. What's going on? Why am I taking off? Seeing Zhou Liluoya, Lin Jiang immediately dashed out. The traitor plunged both hands into the rock wall, using it for a second burst of speed. What do you want to do? What kind of look is that? Do you want to fight me? But Lin Jiang just stood there. What's wrong? Are you hesitating? Are you angry that I pushed your friend? But you feel embarrassed to hit an old man. You're just a despicable coward. Things that can be done are always met with hesitation. Lack of responsibility. An empty heart. Like a walking corpse. Could it be that you feel pity for everyone? Only gods and madmen think like that. Don't ever let me see you in that weak posture again. Is there still no agreement from me? You two are so embarrassed that you step back. A simple person from the riverside has never encountered a master lecturing. Completely bewildered, they stand frozen in place. Oh, Jolie. Why did you suddenly attack the laundry powder? Oh, Jolie. Why are you not breathing? At this moment, the old man's act seems to have been paused. So the two superheroes joined forces to rescue a civilian. Grandpa, you are a superhero. You must control your strength. I can't use too much force, old man. You need to have some restraint, it's you who's reckless. If you press down any harder, you'll break his leg. The boy no longer wants to be friends with the superhero. Superman will eat the last grain of rice in the boy's house 15 days in advance every month. He has crippled his leg. Yet he still accompanies Superman up the mountain to seek wise men. Now it's a narrow bridge. Superman won't say to stop. Carrying himself. Finally seeing the wise man, he gets kicked off the cliff by a strange old man. Watching myself faint completely. One old, one young. Two superheroes hurriedly trying to save themselves. Only lamenting that the superhero's grip is too strong. I suffer under two pairs of magic hands. Thus, I am painfully awakened. When Xiao sees himself waking up, and brings himself a martial arts talisman, Jolie weakly said, "Uncle, are you kidding me? Do I look like someone who can learn martial arts?" At least when Xiao has a bit of heartbreak, ask him why he looks a bit down. I really don't want to say a word. It's okay, just tell your uncle what's on your mind. Uncle is the most patient, but Jolie couldn't hold it in for even a second. Chattering away, she started recounting the crimes of the two demons. Wen is filled with deep regret. Help me, help me. Who will take this chatterbox away? Meanwhile, the two superheroes are on the back mountain. White Hat Kid, let me ask you a few questions. If you don't answer honestly, you will die at my hands. But before I ask my questions, I want to make sure of one thing. Does it hurt? I'm asking you, does it hurt? Does it really hurt or not? Answer me, does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. The old man was somewhat surprised after hearing this. He then observed Lin Jiang closely. The other party didn't have a single wound. So, have you bled at all? Superman Lin Jiang was also taken aback. He had never thought about these questions. He had been fighting for so long. It seems there isn't any. I've never bled. Have you ever felt exhausted? He's so wise. The questions he asks are so profound. Why have I never thought about that? Countless images flashed through Lin Jiang's mind, but he still couldn't figure it out. What do you mean by physical exhaustion? Let me ask a different question. If we fought for a whole year, do you think you could do it? I should be able to, right? But it would get boring. My mind would feel stuck. This guy seems to have endless stamina, but he immediately understood the reason. Next, he began to clarify things for Lin Jiang. The so-called superhuman is a person with unknown powers. There are many names for this power, such as chi, chakra, or energy. I prefer to call it fragrance. Superhumans possess bodies of steel. It's also because the scent has permeated into the body. The concentration and content of the scent vary for each superhero. The way the scent manifests in each superhero is incredibly diverse. So the abilities and skills of each superhero are equally strange. I am one of them. But you are different. During the fight just now, I couldn't feel anything like that from you. So you can go toe-to-toe with me without relying on a gun. Including your previous battles. You fought purely with your body. Just relying on physical strength to confront someone. That's something other superhumans wouldn't dare to imagine. You are a superhuman with untapped potential. Incredibly powerful. But, old man, I lost to my crush. And then I fainted. You mean that airport attack? I know, I watched the live broadcast. Didn't you see the footage of you getting back up after you fainted? I don't remember getting back up. You got back up. And in an instant, you knocked that octopus monster to the brink of death. In my view, in that brief moment, you released your scent. You felt threatened by the octopus. You sensed a danger. So your power was forcibly awakened. But at that moment, you were unconscious. So you weren't actually fainting then. It's just that your body can't handle your true power yet. That's why you lost consciousness. My observations are never wrong. The aura you released at that time was just the tip of your iceberg. After that, two new types of beings suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Among them, the giant with long hair possesses terrifying strength. Please trust the old man's intuition. Their appearance there must be due to sensing the greatest threat to their invasion of Earth. And that threat is you, the White Hat Superman. Earth is about to fall into a life and death battle. The exact timing is unknown to us. So I need to awaken your dormant power as soon as possible. Let's go, we'll head back and eat Chongqing hot pot first. My name is Jolie. I have a habit of writing a diary. I want to document my tragic experiences. I feel like I've been sold to this godforsaken place. There isn't a normal person here. They keep talking about love every day. Keep it up, keep it up. They're even encouraging me, a person with a disability, to chop wood and work. That old man is a demon. He says he will use acupuncture to help me with my leg. But every time, he makes me. I don't know how I've survived this long. They even force me, a shut-in, to hunt for targets. And every time the demon old man and my friend receive awards, they never practice with us. Only at mealtime do those two come back. The clothes on me are already in a terrible state. There is one benefit to this exhaustion. I sleep incredibly soundly every day. But there's one problem. What should I do about studying here in Linjiang? The old demon said to let Linjiang study from here. My stupidity.